is the answer, then the question must be this: how do the Mets end 42 years of uncertainty at third base? The record book shows that since 1962, no fewer than 127 Mets have manned the hot corner. That includes Don Zimmer, Howard Johnson, the glider Ed Charles, Joe Foy, Ty Wigginton, and everyone in between. But never has the arrival of a Met third baseman been this anticipated. If David Wright's not the hottest minor league prospect out there, he's close. Here's MSG's Doug Morrison at Norfolk.
Back in 2001, in the supplemental first round, the Mets decided to take a chance and draft David Wright out of Chesapeake, Virginia. That pick looks like it will pay off for many years to come. Since his first few days playing A-ball, Wright has progressed through the minor league system quickly. His ascent to what many are saying is the top of the Mets prospect list continued recently with a call-up to AAA Norfolk in mid-June.
It's almost like this is a new season for me up here in AAA. AA is in the past, and I can't. These pitchers up here don't care that I hit 360 in AA because everybody at the AAA level was successful at AA. That's why they have moved up. So, it's a clean slate for me, and it's a chance to start over and come out here and prove to myself and to the organization that I am ready for this jump and that I am progressing towards the big leagues.
Spending less than half a year at the AA level is rare for anyone, but it's plain and simple. For over a year now, the third baseman has been doing just about everything right. With the bat, he has a picture-perfect swing. Quick hands enable him to hit to all fields, and Wright has proven he possesses some power as well. Yet his strong point offensively is his excellent judgment of the strike zone. That leads to a fair share of walks. Add to that his high batting average, and you've got a player who gets on base all the time.
Each year I feel like I develop more into a more complete hitter, and I think that's the biggest credit has to go to guys like Hojo and Ken Oberfeld and John Stearns and Al LaBeouf and our roving hitting guys, Mickey Brantley. They've taught me to be aggressive but be conservative at the same time. Look for a pitch that I can drive early in the count. But if I don't get it, I think that I'm a good enough hitter where I can hit with 2 strikes.
Along with the offense, there's plenty of defense in Wright's game. He has shown good range and a major league arm. The guy who wears number 5 on his Norfolk jersey is a proven gem at the hot corner.
He's been outstanding defensively, shown plus range and plus throwing arm. His feet and hands are a major league plus, and there's no reason why he can't be a real fine third baseman in the big leagues for a long time.
I've been pretty happy so far this year with my defense, and it's great having, especially at the AA level with Ken Oberfeld and Hojo, 2 former, third basemen. I learned a lot from those guys, and I'm still learning the position, and if I can, more than anything, work on my angles, getting to the balls, and work on just my positioning overall, that I feel like I'll become a better fielder.
While most people now know who David Wright is and what he is capable of, the 21-year-old is not counting on anything being handed to him. It's why he will never cease to work on everything, every day. And it's a labor of love that pushes him to spend endless hours trying to make himself better.
The way I always thought about it growing up was, while I'm playing Nintendo or I'm watching TV or watching a movie, there's somebody else that wants to take my job out somewhere around the country, take my scholarship, take my position in high school, that's out there working when I'm not working. So that's what I always told myself, is that when I'm not working, somebody else is. And they're going to be my competition down the road. So I always try to, outwork my competition.
With an attitude like that, many project that this prospect will get to show his stuff on baseball's biggest stage soon. Comparisons to St. Louis All-Star Scott Rowland have been made many times, and Wright has said it's flattering to be put in such company, but realizes the praise and attention go along with the territory when you are moving up the ladder faster than most in the minor leagues.
Doug, thank you. The interview in the dugout. He might be a special player. He doesn't want to be perceived as somebody getting special treatment, and he doesn't do a lot of those long-form interviews around his minor league teammates. Right. Guys who've had a cup of coffee in the majors, by the way, sprinkled into that AAA roster.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to hear his work ethic, attitude, but you know what? He's already had an impact on the Mets major league roster. Look what Ty Wigginton has done since they've started talking about David Wright. We're coming back with the play of the day in a moment.
Last summer, the excitement and the new blood at Shea came in the person of Jose Reyes, and this summer, the arrival of David Wright to play third base for the Mets beginning tonight at Shea as a two-game series opens with Montreal. Welcome upstairs here at Shea on MSG, and we are in the presence of Mr. Kiner, the recipient of a positive book review in the New York Times Company. Congratulations.
That really is a great happening for me, and very happy about that. And of course, the book is about my 60 years in baseball.
All right, well, tonight we watched the beginning of what the Mets hope will be a long and prosperous career for David Wright.
David Wright has really been a high prospect on the list. He's a fellow who played at Double-A and hit the ball very well down there at 363, and then moved up to Triple-A, the highest minor league, and did almost as well in that level. So David Wright is making his debut here tonight, and the pressure's on. He certainly is under the gun, and he will be written about tomorrow in big letters.
Right.
The big thing is how quickly he makes the adjustment from AAA, and that's footage of him in AAA, to the major leagues. And it is an adjustment for some people, not as big an adjustment, but David Wright comes up under a huge spotlight. Look at that ball there. He crushed that ball over the center field wall. He's got a nice compact stroke, but he can pick it at third base. And the Mets are very high on him all around. So now he joins Jose Reyes, and they're looking for that Jose Reyes type spark for the ball club to get them back on that winning track. He played in front of family and friends, and sometimes that's more difficult than anything else.
And David Wright spent his time before batting practice tonight doing that very same thing, signing autographs for Met fans at Shea. First pitch comes your way next on him. Moments ago, the Mets take the field, and David Wright does it for the first time in the big leagues. And the Met fans, New Yorkers, have heard enough about him over the last month. They greeted him with a terrific ovation as well when his name was introduced by Alex Anthony during the lineups. He's got a smile on his face, and his heartbeat right now, 7,322.
Got to be a big day in his life. There's no doubt about that being the best of your sports days in your history. Made the major leagues.
And here's the Mets starter tonight, Jae Seo, who starts against the Expos for the first time this year. He pitched once against them in relief in San Juan. First week of the year, Brad Wilkerson leading off for the Expos, takes a strike. Well, the Mets hopeful that they can quickly erase the memory of the last two nights with a good start here and take advantage of it. Montreal team that's down. The Expos lost their 60th game last night.
And they're tired from travel.
Yeah, that's
everybody's complaining about it, even management in the press room.
In fact, Wilkerson swings and misses with changeup. I asked Wilkerson before the game tonight, I said, how you doing? His first thing he said, tired.
Yeah, but the thing about that, you get to go to Puerto Rico. It's a resort.
That is one way to look at it. That's the whole backhanded. So Wigginton gets tested right away at first base. Makes the play nicely to Jae Seo. And there's one down.
Another good backhand play here by the former second baseman, third baseman, now first baseman.
It's a nice play by Wigginton. Now here's the rest of Montreal's lineup. Endy Chavez second. The one all-star standout, Jose Vidro. Tony Batista cleans up Termel Sledge. Orlando Cabrera has had a tough year. He's batting sixth. Nick Johnson, the former Yankee, faces the Mets for the first time. And then catcher Brian Schneider, eighth.
Ralph, have you ever seen a ball club that had more guys play first base in one half of a season than the Mets this year?
No, I have not, because first base is usually so solid a position. You got your big hitter playing first base, and you say, well, he's there for the year.
But they've been experimenting at first base, and Art Howe has been putting different players over there. Shane Spencer's been over there lately, and now Ty Wigginton. He should be relaxed at first base because, as you mentioned, he played third and second. He's also been a catcher.
Well, for at least a while now, he's going to be there until Mike Piazza's wrist heals. Vidro on deck for Montreal. Wigginton played there. He played about a dozen games, I think it was, at the end of the 2002 season.
And you got to wonder if the Mets are thinking of maybe putting Mike behind the plate for more catching. Although I talked to Mike before the ball game, and he said that nothing has been decided yet.
Okay, the defense for the Mets. Cliff Floyd in left field, Cameron in center, Hidalgo in right field. Wright, the newcomer, at third base. Vasui at shortstop. Rivera is at second base, and Wigginton at first base. And the catcher, Vance Wilson.
So it's 3-2 now to Endy Chavez, former Met farmhand. Chavez batting .300 against right-hand pitching, so tough hitter tonight for Jae Seo to keep off the bases. That'll be fouled out of play.
Well, everybody is still wondering about this Montreal Expo ball club about next year. What will happen?
Well, the commissioner said that there's going to be in some other city.
And everybody's speculating not far from Baltimore, which would be Washington. Frank Robinson, who managed the Baltimore Orioles at one time and played in Baltimore.
Well, that would be interesting. If they end up somewhere in the nation's capital, if Frank would be considered to manage there.
Well, last year he told everybody he wasn't going to manage, and he changed his mind.
Yeah, that's out to just to the right of center field for Cameron. So Jae Seo puts the first two men away, and now our summer team takeoff brought to you by AmeriSuites and Wellesley Inns and Suites. For summer takeoff details, visit summertakeoff.com. And this, for the Mets division, hopes huge to take advantage, as you can see, both the Braves and the Phillies have taken advantage big time of their games with Montreal.
Montreal 16.5 games out of first place, and everybody looking to play them. But that's a team that also later on in the season can be the big spoiler.
Well, they'll have perhaps a chance. The Mets will play 7 games right at the end of the season against Montreal, the final 3 of the season here at Shea.
Must be tough, Ralph, for Frank Robinson to go through this year and last year the way they're moving the ball club around.
That has to be very tough. Of course, he's got a lot of miles on him. He's not a young fella.
Jeez, I didn't mean it that way.
I did.
I don't want to tell Frank.
But Frank, of course, one of the great players of all time, and certainly has a great managerial background, the first black to manage in baseball.
There's Tony Batista on deck. Of course, Frank, now for the 3rd straight year, is going to miss your weekend in Cooperstown.
He's going to miss the weekend because he's in the Hall of Fame. MVP of the National League and the American League.
But of course, he's got to manage this weekend.
Won the Triple Crown back in 1966 with the Baltimore Orioles. In '67, he was leading the league in all 3 of those categories in May, and got hurt in a collision at second base. And Carl Yastrzemski won it for the Red Sox.
There's David Wright nicely moving to his left. Well, there's his first play, and right away showing a little bit of the defense that accelerated his trip to the big leagues. Good move to his left. Well, there were 2 plays made in the first inning that the Mets haven't made a lot of this year. For the game, I was talking to Scott Erickson, the new Mets pitcher, who spent a month at Norfolk pitching, and Scott Erickson said you are going to be impressed by David Wright, that he can play the field. And right away, Ralph saw a pretty good first step to his left.
Very quick moves, and he did a good job. And as you pointed out, in yesterday's ball game, those plays were base hits. Same balls hit.
Well, here's the Met lineup. It's Reyes Matsui up top. Ty Wigginton now takes the 3rd spot with Piazza out. Floyd, Hidalgo, Cameron, David Wright 7, and Vance Wilson catches his 4th straight game.
Here's a guy that gave the ball club a lift last year. They're hoping for the same thing from David Wright starting tonight. You see John Patterson's numbers. Those are his Rico numbers. 26 strikeouts and 27 in the 3rd innings, and a lot of guys trying out for this Montreal Expo team during the course of the season.
Well, he came from Arizona and is now with Montreal. Won his 1 game at High Beathorn Stadium in Puerto Rico.
He was the first Puerto Rican player in the major leagues, Ralph.
That's very true, and they named the stadium in Puerto Rico after him. I saw him play years ago in 1930-something for the Hollywood Stars in the Pacific Coast League.
And a good player, I understand.
He was a good pitcher.
Kaz Matsui will be next. Reyes seeing Patterson for the first time. That's fouled away, but the other Mets know Patterson. Patterson's only big league win this year was against the Mets. In that game in San Juan, he pitched 7 shutout innings against them, giving up only 2 hits. And then pitched a game at Shea here in April. 6 innings, gave up just 1 run. So the Mets haven't hit this guy yet.
Well, the defense. Wilkerson is in left field. Chavez in center field. Sledge in right. Bautista is at third base. Cabrera is at short. Jose Vidro at second base. And Nick Johnson at first base. And Brian Snyder is doing the catching.
Let's hit well to center, but Endy Chavez glides back, and there's 1 away. So Reyes flies out.
Take a look at our Hyundai keys to the game, and it's all about the word right. So you see, having the right stuff, of course, referring to David Wright. Take advantage of the right situation. That means the Montreal Expos. Jae Seo has to be right deep into the ball game.
And there was a guy named Stephen Wright who was certainly right with the jokes.
Well, that's our 4th Hyundai key to the game.
That's right. Well, that's interesting.
Why do they drive on parkways, and why do they? Is that what it goes? How does that go? Why do they park on driveways and drive on
parkways?
Right.
That was his line. Well, this is a nice attendance night from some branch of military service. That must have been the plebes must have to stand while the officers file in and sit.
Well, Ralph should know about that.
Yeah, that's the way it was when I was in the service. We stood.
Right.
But then I became an officer, and it was a little better.
They were saluting.
That's right.
In fact, I noticed that now you want me to salute you when I
think you should.
It doesn't bother me.
I think Ralph would have in mind a little different salute than the one you usually give him. Do it too.
I've had that one.
Expos playing Kaz, really playing him to hit the other way. Boy, Wilkerson hugging the left field line almost. And Chavez well into left center.
You know, when you see a player being played this way, it means the pitcher's got to work you outside and play you to hit the ball the way they are defensing the batter. So you pretty well figure on that you're going to get outside pitches.
You know what's funny, though, about that, Ralph? And you're on the money, but you pitch a guy to his weakness. So they figure, well, we'll pitch him outside, we'll play him away. But a lot of times they feel his weakness is there inside. So what do? They play him away and pitch him in.
That's what they did.
You know what the problem is? The infielders and outfielders have a meeting over there, and the pitchers and catchers have it over there. They're never in the same room. Think about it. They set it up a certain way. Now they pitch them inside.
Kaz lifts that one foul. And out of play. So it stays 3-2. Well, this umpiring crew, I think, is happy to be here tonight because this crew just worked the 2-game series between the Cardinals and Cubs at Wrigley Field that was filled with bench clearing incidents and heated battles. Tim Cheetah there was the home plate umpire yesterday at Wrigley and had a real bad battle with LaTroy Hawkins, the Cubs pitcher. A little calmer setting tonight.
You know, you mentioned LaTroy Hawkins. I asked Ron Gardenhire in Minnesota about the difference in playing in a place like Minnesota and New York. He said, you know, LaRoy Hawkins, he flipped out in Chicago. He said it's a big market. Remember, he flipped out and wouldn't talk to media? He said, and it's tougher in New York. Talking about Ron Gardenhire, who's an outstanding manager with those Minnesota Twins.
And a former infielder for the New York Mets.
Ooh. Wow, I'm not... John Patterson had the same reaction I did. Like, where'd this miss?
Look at the target. Inside. Playing him away. Oh, that's not a strike.
It was inside. Okay. No question about that.
The first baseman.
And Cliff, of course, played for the Montreal Expos. Came up with them. Started his career with almost the greatest crowds ever had in Montreal. Had something like 55,000 for his first 3 or 4 games.
Got a standing ovation while he was on deck, walking to home plate. When he got into the batter's box, he had to step out to acknowledge the standing ovation before his first at bat in the big leagues. And I said, what happened? You figure? You know, he was writing the script. He said, I struck out. That's not good.
And that's interesting as he tries to bring Matsui in here from third. Wigginton at first. Before the game last night, Cliff was talking during batting practice quite a bit about the crowds here in New York. And I was intrigued because then Lee Jenkins wrote a great story in the Times this morning about the very same thing that Cliff was talking about last night during BP, which is how mercurial the crowds have been. That's a hard word for me to say.
Try it again.
Very supportive one day, very tough the next, and that's been something for him. I think he's having a little trouble getting used to that.
Well, that's always been the history of New York. When you're going well, you're going to get the crowd with you, and you're going bad, and they're on Piazza right now. Right. They're going to be against you. I mean, that's the history of this town.
Right. I talked to Mike Cameron before the ball game, and he was talking about that same type of crowd you just mispronounced.
Yes.
And as far as Mike
Cameron, he did a good job.
Well, he was close. I was with him, though. But Mike Cameron said he enjoys it.
Yeah.
He enjoys the mercurial crowd.
Right. I think he enjoys it, and I would not say Cliff is not quite enjoying it. Oh, he struck him out. Boy, Patterson, it's a little bit of what Cliff just got from Benitez the last couple of nights, just coming at him with the fastballs.
Number 15. Hey, that's a good call, Jeff, because I'm telling you, Ralph, the past couple of nights, it didn't seem like Cliff Floyd was able to turn up the dial on the fastball.
Well, he struck out and made the last out in the last 2 ball games, and they were all fastballs.
95-mile-per-hour fastballs from Armando Benitez.
So Hidalgo will try to pick up Floyd and the Mets here, capitalize on the error. Of course, just to finish up on that point, what Cliff Floyd, as far as Mike Cameron's new this year, what Cliff is experiencing for the first time is the fact that the fans are engaged. Last year's situation here was such that the fans just weren't really into it. There's nothing to get into. Well, now the fans are. And that's part of playing in New York. So Patterson gets ahead of Hidalgo. 0-2.
And when you think about New York and you think about David Wright coming to the big leagues, not only coming to the big leagues with the New York team, but we've had the spotlight on him since he was in Binghamton. The spotlight traveled to Norfolk, and now it's bigger here in New York.
Here's a guy that's a laid-back guy. You wonder how he likes New York. If he keeps hitting like he has been, he'll like it.
And throwing. Foul back.
I can tell you one thing. He didn't like Houston because they wouldn't play him. He said, trade me. And this is what he's been doing, Ralph. Hammering the ball.
Ball really hit well. He had 44 home runs 1 year. So he's done it. He wants to do it again.
Well, that last night gave the Mets a 7-6 lead. Boy, John Patterson, you talk about picking up your fielders. How about that? A potentially disastrous error, and John Patterson comes back and strikes out 2 hitters in a row. Second inning at Shea. It'll be Jae Weong Seo to face Tony Batista, then Termel Sledge, and Nick Johnson. Tony Batista leading Montreal in RBIs with 47. Expos just lost a big batter over the weekend. They traded Carl Everett to the Chicago White Sox. They signed Everett over the offseason to a 2-year deal. They traded him. And there's a lot of eyes on Orlando Cabrera right now, who's going to be a free agent at year's end. They think the Expos may move him by the deadline. Fouled away by Batista.
Would you say that Everett was a mercurial player?
Yes. Well, mercurial tempered.
There
yes.
it is. You got it, Ted.
That's kind of like when I try to say free throw. That's the other one. You know what I do when I do basketball games? Foul shot. That's what they become foul shots.
But look at Batista at that play, Ralph. You think you try to pitch him up above those hands when they go down? Although, you know what? He doesn't drop them as much as he used to.
He sure has that wide open stance. And when you go back to the old days, one of the great hitters and the great shortstop, Archie Vaughn, hit that way, only he was left-handed.
Wow. Well, that's rope to left. Will hook foul.
Well, Ralph, going back to some of those old-time footage, I saw Lou Gehrig dropped his hands way down. Hank Greenberg.
Yeah, but they dropped him down and got him back up.
Yeah, okay, and Frank Robinson did that.
If you get your hands back up, it's all right. When you drop your hands and don't get them back up, you're going to have real trouble with that fastball.
You know what's funny in baseball? When you were a kid, you would hear you're not supposed to have a hitch. You can't have a hitch, but everybody has a preparatory hitch.
Well, I think you always have a recoil before the shot is made or the swing is made.
Batista flies out to Cameron, 1 away.
By the way, I talked to Mike Cameron before the ballgame about this center field here at Shea, and I quoted Willie Mays, who said the toughest center field he played in was here at Shea Stadium because of the wind and how it changes. And Mike Cameron agreed. He said it's a tough center field. He said during the day it's very tough with the sun.
Yeah.
He said he likes it when he shows up and it looks like it's going to rain during the day.
So he's checking the forecast for tomorrow is what you're saying.
He certainly was while we were talking.
Well, this is a nice story. Termel Sledge, when the Expos came here for the first time in late April, remember he was 0 for the season still. Ended up getting a hit here. He was like 1 for his first 30-something. And now he comes in tonight hitting 265. He's going to play every day with Carl Everett being traded. Flies out to Floyd, 2 down. New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by Ford. Visit your Tri-State Quality Ford store with the best-selling vehicles in America. By HIV Health Plan, now that's hip. And by Nissan and your Nissan dealer. So here's Orlando Cabrera. Chuckling because I saw a note tonight at Fenway Park. The Red Sox playing a game tonight, and Jerry Remy, former player for the Red Sox and now a broadcaster for quite a while, is opening up his own concession stand at Fenway Park, which seems to be a kind of a trend now going on.
Well, Boop got Powell. Right. One in Baltimore.
And Greg Luzinski, the Bull, has one in the new park in Philadelphia. So I'm thinking Kiner's Knishes. What do you think? Come on, you entrepreneur, you. Well, look at Fran, he's interested. He just gave an idea.
That's right, Ralph. I could see you out there right now.
I can get Rusty to cook them.
He'd eat all the goods. Don't do it. Don't do it. Saw Rusty here tonight.
He was here, yes.
Former Met pitcher Ed Lynch, former GM of the Cubs, also here doing some scouting. 1-2 to Cabrera.
Ed Lynch, of course, was with the Mets as a pitcher and then became a general manager with the Cubs.
Back through Jae Seo and into center field, so Cabrera gets the first hit of the night.
That was one of the greatest dance moves I've seen in a long time. This ball goes right to the wickets, and watch how his reaction is right here. Looked like a puppet on the string.
Montreal's obviously cutting back on their purchasing of helmets.
Oh, but look at that. He's got a nice shiny one here, doesn't he?
He's new. They give you one when you show up and you keep it forever.
See, Cabrera's just got that Ozzie Guillen, Craig Biggio thing working. Obviously, he probably doesn't let the equipment guy even touch it.
Well, that one's a mess.
Yeah. Doesn't that remind you of Ozzie Guillen?
Yeah, it does.
And Ozzie Guillen, I haven't asked Cabrera, but Guillen refused. He would not let the equipment manager touch. He liked all the pine tar in his helmet.
I'll tell you one thing about that helmet, though. It's been throwing a lot. And he's had some bad days at the plate because that thing has been throwing.
There had to be something superstitious about that helmet. And only in baseball. Charlie Samuel takes those helmets every day, and
see that
he and the guys in the clubhouse clean those helmets. They shine.
See, there's a fastball up by Johnson.
Prior to 1952, batting helmets were not used in the major leagues. 52, the Pittsburgh Pirates started wearing batting helmets.
What was it like for you the first time you?
Well, the worst part, I didn't, you know, we didn't want to have it because it was like when they first wore shin guards and things like that. They wanted to be tough. I don't care if I get hit. But the problem with us, with the Pirates, we had to wear them in the field.
You had to wear them in the field?
Yeah.
Why?
Because we were terrible. Get hit in the head by 5 balls. 52 is the year the Pirates lost 112 games.
David Wright getting ready. He'll be his first at-bat will be coming up in the bottom half of the inning. That's line to right field, though, but the Expos making a little noise here. Nick Johnson with a hit. And Cabrera realized Hidalgo was the right fielder and said, I better stop. Richard Hidalgo threw out Aesop Choi last night. Hidalgo was saying most guys now don't run on me. Cabrera, I think, remembered. Whoops. Not on that guy.
Usually with a guy with a lot of assists, they run a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's surprising. He has a great arm, and they still seem to challenge him. Last year, he had 22 assists.
Yeah. He's not in the leaders this year, which that's what I was asking. Yeah, that's what I was asking him about. He goes, not too many guys run on me this year. So here's Brian Schneider with 2 outs, trying to get the Expos on the board. Schneider 4 for 21 against the Mets with 1 homer the first time these teams played.
He's got 9 home runs, left-hand hitting catcher, 25 RBIs, batting about 260. Some pretty good numbers.
And changeup in 1-1.
Of course, the pitchers like to pitch to him. How many times have you heard that?
Easily a million.
I know. You know who starts that rumor is the catcher. See that replay right
Sounds
there.
like experience, huh?
Oh, you got to start the rumor. They love to pitch to me.
How about when
just
when
don't verify it?
How about when the pitcher has his favorite catcher? That's the only time he catches.
You better be a real good pitcher because managers don't like it. Bobby Cox, every time we would see him for the last 10 years, they say, no, so tell me about Javi Lopez. Why isn't he catching great matches? Oh, no, coincidence. Managers hate that. If a pitcher can't pitch, if a pitcher can't pitch, he goes in your office and says, I don't want to pitch to him, you're gone.
Wigginton gets the ground ball, unassisted put out, so the 2-out threat dies, and we're going to stay right here as the Mets will prepare for the bottom of the 2nd inning, and David Wright's first major league at bat. Will be second batter coming up in the inning. Guys looking forward to seeing him hit. You looking forward to seeing him hit, Ralph?
I am thinking about that. You know what? I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about my first at bat in St. Louis against Johnny Beasley in 1946. And I got a base hit my first time up. And you got to breathe a sigh of relief when you get that base hit right away.
That's right. First at bat in the big leagues, so you can remember it like it was yesterday. I faced Denny McLain. After he won 30 games, he won 26 the following year. I got up there. You know what? His heart right now is beating more rapidly than it's beat in a long time.
Oh, during the national anthem tonight, it was amazing to watch David Wright, how hyper he was and ready to play. Well, before the game tonight, we had a chance to ask David Wright how he was feeling about making his big league debut.
Well, I think the butterflies will be flying without a doubt, but you know, I've told myself that I want to soak it in, enjoy the moment, and you know, I think that's what I'm going to do is go out there, enjoy it, try not to put too much pressure on myself, try not to go out there and do too much, stay within myself, and go out and enjoy it. You know, not too many people get this opportunity, so I'm going to really go out there, soak it in, and have a good time with it tonight, and hopefully get a W out of it.
All right, here he is now being a sponge during the anthem tonight. First big league. Had to hear 2 anthems, of course. Canadian anthem, then the Star Spangled Banner. And here, I think that's a little nerve. Watch this. Watch the hat.
The heart was beating.
I wonder, is it more difficult to break into the major leagues in the middle of the season or at the start of the season? I would say breaking into the major leagues in the middle of a season when you're in a pennant race and a team needs you is much more difficult.
But Ralph, you're in better playing shape right now than you would be in April.
But so are the pitchers.
So you're afraid. I understand. Well, it's going to be interesting to watch David Wright swing that bat as you look at Mike Cameron.
So Cameron will lead off the inning. By the way, the Mets tonight, 2 players in the starting lineup, 21 years old. 2 players, Wright and Reyes. That hasn't happened for the Mets, non-pitchers, in 20 years. 1984, the Mets started a game with John Gibbons behind the plate and Jose Oquendo at shortstop, both 21.
Well, Jose Reyes has certainly proven himself. Small body of work, but has proven himself. He's got a chance of being a real good one. And, of course, all eyes will be on David Wright for a while.
So Cameron first.
You know, Mike Cameron gave a lot of credit to Don Baylor tonight before the ball game, and also to a conversation he had with Mike Piazza in Philadelphia the last trip the Mets were in there during a rain delay. He said that he went to Mike and he talked hitting. He said it was very intense and went on for a while. And he said Mike really was on top of Mike Cameron's swing. Talked to him about not bending over at the waist as much, because he said when you do, the bad ball that's outside looks hittable. You'll chase it. So he got him to stand up a little bit more. And he said he's talked to Don Baylor many times, and Baylor has helped him tremendously. They go through some workouts before he even goes out for batting practice.
Well, Don Baylor certainly has been an outstanding hitting coach, and proved that when he was the coach for Andres Galarraga and got him back on track.
So 3 straight strikeouts for Patterson, and here comes David Wright. How fast they can come. Last year, he ended the season playing, in fact, he played the entire year last year in Port St. Lucie in the Florida State League. Half a year later, he's in the big leagues.
Good move.
21 years old.
So you know what?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Looks like talent over experience.
He reminds me a little bit of Dick Groat in the way he looks and his build. And Dick Groat broke into the major leagues, and after being a Duke, joined the club in New York when we were playing the New York Giants. Got 2 hits in his first 4 at-bats in the major leagues.
Well, from the swings we saw on the footage in AAA, he's got a nice compact stroke with power.
Like I mentioned, the Met players who've been on rehab assignments. Scott Erickson was there for a month. Vance Wilson played a game there. Came back talking about this young man being legit. No question. Zal Leiter, very impressed in spring training. Saw him play in a inter-squad game, or I believe a minor league game.
I like what he said before. I'm going to enjoy the moment. Not many people get the opportunity to do this. Now, that's a mature way to look at it. Most people are lunging and over anxious before the game even starts.
And some are scared to death.
Foul back.
I'd like to try to monitor his nervous system right now.
Well, you know the heartbeat is up.
Great shot during the national anthem. That heart beating more rapidly than it has in a long time.
Just got a piece. That's good protection swing there to foul off that slider.
That was a good slider or cut fastball. It moved at the last minute, and it was in a great spot. So you say off that, he's composed.
This one may be playable. Coming over to the Montreal dugout. Schneider. What a play. Terrific. Does he have it? Yes, he does.
How about that? How about David Wright's first at bat in the big leagues? It takes a sparkling play by the catcher going into the dugout.
Brian Schneider went right over the railing and held this ball beautifully.
Something you can't do with the gloves of yesteryear. Catch that ball like that, it would be off your glove. But right now with the gloves, you can make this play. And he does a spectacular job of hanging in there.
Boy, David Wright didn't cheat himself at all with that swing with 2 strikes.
Had a good swing at the fastball and also at the slider or splitter.
Now Vance Wilson takes a strike. Meanwhile, Brian Schneider, why is it every time we see him, he's doing things like that against the Mets? He made some terrific defensive plays against this team. Slider missed away, 1-1 to Vance.
And when you see that, you think about the fact that ball clubs will buy a ball player that has played well against your team. They say he must be really good, and a lot of times,
absolutely,
you get really fooled by that. And
I was saying that I'm convinced that had to have something to do with Luis Castillo. The Mets have seen that guy has so many hits against them the last couple of years. Suddenly he becomes a free agent last year, and you think, hey, he'd look good on our side. If nothing else, it's 30 less hits against us. And Vance Wilson delivers. That's a good base hit. For 2 outs here in the inning, it clears the pitcher's spot. First hit for the Mets.
Of course, the joke was in the early days of the Mets when they started out in 1962 was they're afraid the Mets players to the good teams in the league so that they'd be brought down. And we'd have a chance to beat them.
Well, last night was officially Korean night here at Shea, but tonight the Jae Seo fans on hand.
So had a pretty good swing at that ball.
So's not a bad hitting pitcher. I know Ted was talking about clearing the pitcher. This guy here is very aggressive at swinging that bat.
And that's going to get over Vidro's head for a hit. And Jae Seo keeps the inning alive, and it'll give Reyes a chance.
So Art House excited about that, and Jose Reyes gets another shot. Look at this. Gets that foot down. It's a Panasonic digital replay, Ralph.
And it was a good job of fighting off the fastball. And got a lucky break as he was jammed with the pitch and got a base hit.
It's funny, we have all the focus on David Wright tonight in his first big league game at such a young age. Jose Reyes is 6 months younger than David Wright.
It is amazing.
It doesn't feel that way, does it?
Well, you know, last year the Mets said they're going to get younger and more athletic. Well, they got Jose Reyes into the big leagues last year, David Wright this year.
Reyes has been hot the last 11 games he's played. He's hit .349 with 6 stolen bases. He had 2 in last night's ball game and 2 in the ball game before last night.
After he said he's going back to his original way of running. He was trying to run by the numbers since Florida, but now he's going back and he's going to do it all natural.
The people were saying that he was not running as well because of the problems he has had.
Well, John Patterson, 4 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. And the Mets have left 4 runners on. Scoreless game. So to the 3rd inning we go. In a scoreless game, John Patterson batting and fouls the first one back. Mets and Expos, quick 2-game series. 12:10 tomorrow afternoon for the first pitch and an early start. And there's a strike. Zach Day will come off the disabled list to pitch the game tomorrow afternoon, and he has really hurt the Mets. In the past, Tom Glavine will be the Mets starter. We're on FSN New York tomorrow with the game.
And on this exact day, 1970, Preston Gomez, the manager of the San Diego Padres, took his pitcher Clay Kirby out of the ball game, and he was working on that no-hitter. And he was taken out for pinch hitter after 8 no-hit innings. The Mets were leading 1-0.
How the heck did the Mets score a run those days without a hit?
1970 was conducted.
I mean, they didn't have exactly. I mean, but no hits. But how'd they get a run?
But Preston Gomez did that, and he was criticized by his general manager.
I agree with the GM. You know what? The way the Padres were, they were going at that time. Let the people enjoy.
Well, that's what Buzzy Bavasi said. We never had a no-hitter, so let him try and pitch a no-hit game, even though he might have lost it.
And the team really wasn't going to win the division, win the World Series, so give the fans in San Diego a chance to embrace history.
You sound like a pitcher.
I always wanted to be a pitcher.
But the other thing about that, Preston Gomez had another opportunity to do the same thing and did. Took 2 pitches out of a ball game.
Oh, his managing career.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what? Preston just didn't like pitchers.
That was. But the Mets won the game 3-0.
John Patterson putting on a good at bat. He's trying to answer back Jae Seo for the hit Jay had. Patterson is 1 for 10 at the plate this year. Fouls that away. Well, my other Met memory of this day, Ralph, which you obviously were here for, one of the greatest things I can remember seeing, unless you were Joe Torre, was the day Felix Millan had 4 singles here playing for the Mets and never touched second base.
And Joe Torre, yeah, Joe Torre hit into 4 double plays, a major league record in that game in his brief career as a manager and player for the Mets. And he blames Meehan. He said if Meehan had not gotten on, I would not have that record.
Or hit a double. Mix in a double, right? Hey, MSG's telecast of tonight's Met game available right now in high definition only on cable TV. Features widescreen images up to 5 times sharper than regular TV and Dolby Digital sound. MSG Network and high def available only on cable.
Ralph, you've seen the picture on high def, haven't you?
Sure have.
Unbelievable.
Great, yeah.
It really is.
Well, Jae Weong, a pitcher who normally has terrific command, walked the opposing pitcher. Now Wilkerson takes a strike.
Wilkerson last year had a solid year. Right now, he leads the Expos at 20 doubles, 51 runs, and 16 home runs. He was in a battle a couple of years ago for Rookie of the Year.
Foul back and quickly 2 strikes.
It's going to be tough to win those awards when you're a member of the Montreal Expos. Number one is you really don't have a home base. Nobody can follow you.
Yeah, but the ballpark is nice and short and small in Puerto Rico, and the weather's warm, and you got the beaches there, and they come, as opposed to Montreal. Wow.
Jae Weong, double play.
Jae Weong can pick it. He is not only pick it, but he can get it to second base as quick as anybody.
And watch this little play. We talked about this last year with Jae Weong. He gets it. Now watch, little crow step hop. Remember last year there was a game where he just wheeled and threw the ball?
Well, there are times when, in my opinion, if you're the infielder, you got to act like a catcher. I should say the pitcher. Ball hit back to the pitcher. Get it to second base as quickly as possible. Now, they want you to take the crow hop to allow the infielder to get to the base.
Right.
But on a double play, somebody is supposed to be cheating over towards second base. In my opinion, the most important thing, quickness. Get the ball to the base.
And another factor there is that the infielder that's waiting to get to the bag is a first baseman. If you get that quick release by the pitcher to the infielder at second or short, you got to wait for the first baseman.
Yeah, the big thing is to get the ball to that base as quickly as possible. You're taught as a catcher. Throw the ball to second base. If nobody's there, forget about it. It's not your fault. They got to get over to second base. And I feel the same for the pitcher. But you got to give him a chance to get there. But if it has to be real quick, he doesn't have to use the crow hop. And he's just started to use the crow hop.
Yeah, that's something the Mets worked last year with Jae Weong on that.
Now there's a name you wonder where it came from.
Just past Wigginton, and Chavez with good speed will turn this into a double.
Well, the ball hit right by the bag in fair territory, and Wigginton made a pretty good dive for it, but it was by him before he could get to the ball. And then, of course, out in right field, the big arm, strong arm, and the ball was through and gone.
So Chavez hitting the ball right down the first baseline. Our Panasonic digital replay. He stands on second base with a double with 2 out here in the third.
And now the Mets will pass on Jose Vidro, who is having a very subpar year for his all-star standards. The Mets still will pass on him, and they'll choose to go with Tony Batista.
I wonder how much he misses Vladimir Guerrero.
Goodness, don't they all?
How about the year he's having in Anaheim?
Yet the Angels are just a couple of games over 500. But
they've had a lot of injuries.
They really have, and their pitching has been.
I think that's the bigger one. Their pitching.
Cologne
is a big disappointment.
But getting back to my question, where did the name Crow Hop come from?
Well, you know, from my hunting days, and I saw the crow, and they would always hop.
Oh, really? I thought it might have been Corsetti, who was called the Crow. He hopped up.
Man, I just read a story. Actually, I mentioned it the other night. It was a wonderful story in the New York Times Sunday Magazine. There's Omar Minaya, the former Met executive, 3rd year running the Expos. And there's a fellow in the story in the Sunday Times Magazine by Pat Jordan, still managing in independent ball, Fort Worth, Texas, that you probably played against, Ralph, Wayne Terwilliger. 79 years young, and he's still managing. Isn't that amazing?
Great story by Wayne. He was a very weak hitter. And Lindsey Nelson was parked in a parking lot. And they came out to get in his car, and there's a note left in his car. And Wayne Terwilliger hit his car backing out. And Lindsay said that's the only thing he's hit all year.
There's a ball to Tony Batista.
Does Batista start with his left foot out of the batter's box? Well, no, it's on the line.
Can't be.
Well, it's on the line. I'm telling you, he's close to being out of the batter's box. Look at that left leg.
Popped him up, and this one playable for David Wright. And Jae Seo pitches through it. That walk of Vidro pays off. They get Batista. Now the Mets will have Matsui, Wigginton, and Floyd coming up in the bottom of the third. This is the Amtrak Acela home run inning. Evan Levy from Baldwin on Long Island is our contestant. If a Met homers in this inning, Evan wins tickets to an upcoming game. If it goes over that sign, Evan wins a trip for 2 with Acela anywhere on the East Coast. From Amtrak, your trip starts here. It'll be Matsui, then Wigginton and Floyd. Kaz drew a walk in the first inning. Now Kaz has started all but 3 games. This is the 94th Mets game, the 91st that he has started. We just got through seeing the Iron Man, Juan Pierre from the Marlins. The only big leaguer this year has played every inning.
Yeah, those days are gone. No, that's a record. Cal Ripken Jr. It'll never be broken because managers don't want to be put in a position where they have to play a player because
of a streak,
threatening a record.
Two-1.
It's amazing how that record was always the one people would say would never be broken.
It's because they figured players weren't that strong, but the managers are going to stop it now. It's amazing. No middle infielder has it.
Liner right to Nick Johnson. So Matsui lines out, 1 away, and Ty Wigginton had a chance to comment on his second position move of the year.
I definitely wasn't happy, but I you know, this is the hand I've been dealt, and this is the way it's going to be, and I know it's my job to go out and play and help this club win ball games. I mean, you know, when it gets down to it, number one's got to be winning this division, and we got to have all our sights on that and can't have any distractions.
Quote book brought to you by Tri-State Consumer Auto Insurance.
By the way, he's featured on Mets Inside Pitch this week talking about changes. And the one thing he wants to do, now that David Wright is in the big leagues, he wants to play once a day for 7 days a week. And we're talking about Ty Wigginton, and he talks about that on Mets Inside Pitch, which is brought to you by Mercedes. That'll be on Thursday night right here on MSG.
Well, there's one very simple way of doing that.
Hit.
Well, that's precisely the point. And it was interesting. Ty was pretty candid there. Remember early this year, they moved him to second base. He started 21 games there and did it, you know, with the right team spirit. But I think the reality is that Ty Wigginton's bat will keep him in the lineup. His glove at third base was not strong enough to keep him in the lineup.
And of course, third base is a hitter's position, as is first base.
The Mets for a couple months now have been thinking about this move where Ty Wigginton would go over to first base. He took some ground balls at first base when the Mets were in Cincinnati, and the move seems to be taking place. Now David Wright's in the big leagues and Ty Wigginton's over at first.
And now let's see if Cliff Floyd. Let's see if there's adjustments here, whether Cliff dials his bat speed up and if the Expos just keep coming at him. He's the last couple of nights here, fastballs have eaten Cliff up.
Well, you know, it's funny, and Ralph, you know how on a given night or a given week, your bat's not as fast as it was for 2 straight months. All of a sudden, your bat has become lethargic, and it's just a streak you're going through.
Yeah, there's actually 2 ways to increase your bat speed. One, of course, get a lighter bat, but most of the players today use very light bats. And the other is to choke up in the bat, and you seldom see anyone choke up.
Right.
And the best hitter in baseball, and might be the best hitter ever in the history of the game, chokes up every time he goes to the plate. His name is Barry Bonds.
Saw Bobby Abreu recently. He chokes up. He's an outstanding hitter. Did you choke up?
I did it with 2 strikes, yes. I went up
right?
about an inch, yeah.
Did they ever call you Judy?
No. Well, no. The only Fran Healy calls me Punch and Judy, but that's the only one.
Yeah, it's an old baseball term, Punch and Judy hitter.
You know,
hardly Mr. Kiner's history.
You know who Punch and Judy were?
No.
Puppets.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't say it sincerely to you, though, Ralph. Only when we're disagreeing.
This is pitching coach Randy St. Clair on the mound.
Well, the great line was a one. Jerry Kuzman who was there, and we were talking with Kuzman in the press room, and Rusty Staub was there. And Fran said to Kuzman, "How'd you pitch Rusty Staub?" He said, "Well, they told me to get it over,
but don't walk.
Well, don't walk it."
And Ralph said they haven't even said hello. And you're starting with these guys. Kuz is in town. He'll be in fact Fan Fest this week. Kuz will be here. Cleon Jones, George Foster,
3-0 now to Floyd.
Ron Swoboda.
The inside insults that take place on the ball field are unbelievable.
But Rusty's primed for it, isn't he?
He's a good target.
What he's just sitting there.
But the one I liked was when Reggie Jackson won the Hall of Fame, and he was talking to Whitey Ford and said to Whitey, "How would I hit you?" He said, "Well, I'd let you hit a couple of balls," and said, "because I want to keep you in the lineup."
3-1 now to Floyd. Fans trying to generate a little offense here for the Mets.
How about these guys? They're into it.
3-2.
There's another fastball he had right by him.
They were so disciplined. Well, they're still disciplined. Even when they get up together.
Well, good action running away from Cliff.
Cliff might have to cheat a little bit as far as getting the bat going in a quicker fashion.
Well, I think, Ralph, you made the right point, too. You still, hitters, even though they do use light bats, still talk about they have a summer bat. When the weather gets hot,
get tired, or hot weather, yes.
They go down, drop an ounce or so.
Actually, I'd change the weight on bats with curveball pitchers or fastball pitchers. And I would...
Look at Patterson's reaction.
I would use the lighter bat for curveball pitching because you have to wait longer.
Take a look at that last pitch from upstairs. Was it a strike?
Way inside, right?
Way inside.
As Patterson, that's the second pitch he's thrown tonight in that location that he hasn't gotten.
That was a little closer than the other one.
So now 2 on for Hidalgo, who struck out his first time. Well, the Mets left 2 on in the first. They left 2 on in the second, although in the second inning they didn't get those men on until there were 2 out. And that one drilled to deep left field, and Hidalgo won't leave them on. 3-run homer for the second straight night. It feels like Richard Hidalgo just got here, and in the Mets uniform, he's now hit 10 home runs.
He did just get here. He's been on fire, and John Patterson, after walking Cliff Floyd, gives up the 3-run dinger. Hidalgo is red hot.
29 games as a Met for Hidalgo, 10 home runs.
That's a great ratio, and this is a replay.
Here's
a
Cameron.
swing that doesn't work.
Cameron with a pop up to left for out number 2. Now we'll take a look at Hidalgo's home run.
Right here, it's a breaking ball, and he just stayed back and leveraged that ball out of the ballpark. There was no doubt about it. And a big 3-run home run for the Mets who need a win here.
Well, that's the most painful sequence for a pitcher. Walk, walk, home run.
Now we'll watch young David Wright in his second at bat. His first at bat, it took an outstanding play to get him away from home plate, and it was on a foul ball.
Schneider, the catcher, went over the railing into the Montreal dugout to hold it. Slider gets right there for strike 1.
That was his first bad swing. This ball way out of the strike zone. Hidalgo with a big home run for the Mets.
Well, right there, he threw him another slider, so they're going to find out. You know, when you come out of the minor leagues, everybody knows you can hit a fastball. Here's 2 sliders in a row. Here's the second one, and it's nasty, and it's out of the strike zone.
Well, you got no chance to hit that pitch. It's you really pulled. There's a good pitch hit.
Batista throws out David Wright. So the rookie now 0 for 2 in his big league debut. But the story in this inning is Richard Hidalgo. His 10th home run in 1 month as a Met. Is this one good for 3?
Head out to Queens on Saturday, July 24th as we celebrate 40 years of Mets baseball at Shea Stadium. The first 25,000 adults 13 and over attending the night game against the Braves will receive a Shea Stadium replica courtesy of Toyota. Don't miss out on this exclusive 40th anniversary collectible. For your tickets, stop by Shea Stadium or Keyspan Park, call 718-507-TIXX or log on to Mets.com.
Richard Hidalgo, the man of the moment at Shea. 3-run homer for the 2nd straight night. Hidalgo now has 14 homers on the year, 52 runs batted in. And Sledge drops down a bunt, testing David Wright, makes the play easily.
That's a nice play. Sledge can run, Wright can field. Charging that ball, gloves it. Nice flip, that short arm flip to first base, Ralph. He looked good.
And it was really accurate, and this is a very tough throw. It's right on target.
Some real time, and again, good. Well, in 3 innings or 4 innings now, we're seeing a few instances of what we talked about, that this kid can play third base. And again, really the motivation to bring up a David Wright in this time of the year is only if it improves your team at that position. And that was the word, was that he would improve the Mets defensively at third base.
And one thing you don't want to lose sight of, you're nervous when you're hitting, but you're also in your first game in the big leagues, you're nervous playing defense. He fielded that ball, he was on the move and flipped it from his ear to first base to Ty Wigginton, who's playing first base tonight.
When you talk about being nervous, how about Pedro Guerrero, who played years ago? And they asked him what he thought about when he played third base, and he says, I think of 2 things. I pray they don't hit the ball to me, and I pray they don't hit the ball to Steve Sachs.
That one hit into left center field, a line drive by Cabrera. That goes to the wall and will be a 1-out double.
Steve Sachs, of course, the second baseman for the Yankees that couldn't throw the ball straight.
He was at the Dodgers at the time when Guerrero said, and by the way, a reminder now, we had that Acela home run, and the big guy did it again 2 nights in a row. Richard Hidalgo did it. Congrats to Ivan Levy, winner in the Amtrak Acela home run inning, and that's Ivan just won a pair of Mets tickets for entry. As you look at the double again, visit MSGNetwork.com. Amtrak, your trip starts here, just like that ball started off the bat of Cabrera.
Here's Nick Johnson, who singled to right his first time. So Cabrera, another one of those players that it's like Alex Gonzalez, we just saw from the Marlins. You look at their numbers, they're not hitting very many other people, but somehow they're hitting the Mets. Cabrera now has 12 hits against the Mets this year and just 30 at-bats. Schneider on deck. Cabrera came in hitting just .231 for the season. 1-2.
Who was it, Toby Hara, that said stats are like bikinis? They show you a lot, but not everything.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of that.
Especially with your experience.
Well, you know, it's sort of a contradiction. The Mets have had good pitching all year. They have been #1 in pitching all season in the National League.
The amazing thing is the ERA is low. They've gotten some solid pitches, especially from the top 3, hoping for Scott Erickson to come out smoking. Jae Weong has occasionally looked real good, especially when his fan club's in attendance. And they're here tonight.
2-2 now to.
He's in the fan club. Rick Peterson.
Yes, he is. Rick Peterson, the pitching coach here. Going to pitcher down right now. Dan Wheeler optioned out to make room for David Wright.
Yeah, the Mets told Dan Wheeler, I talked to him in the clubhouse before the ball game, they said it's just a matter of numbers.
Yep, he said he doesn't expect it'll be a long trip. Fouled away. There's another guy, just to you know, it's easy for us to forget about him. He opened the year in the rotation for the Mets, but at some point, if the Mets stay in a race in August, you'd love to think that Tyler Yates, with that arm, and now back in a relief role, could find a way back up here to help in the bullpen.
He was impressive early on, throwing the ball in the low 90s, his fastball. Rick Peterson liked him.
So 2-2 to Johnson with Cabrera at second. Got him on the inside.
Good pitch from Jae Weong, locked him up. 2-strike pitch. It's always a good pitch, 2 strikes, because you're thinking you got to protect the plate. It's our Panasonic digital replay. And that's a nasty pitch right there, Ralph.
Good fastball. Might have been just inside.
John Patterson, I guarantee you now, is going to have it. Schneider, he's going to tell the umpire, make sure you call that for me too. Difference that pitch was up.
And about where those other pitches that were called balls were. Yeah.
So here's Schneider now grounded out his first time.
How about Schneider's throwing out 50% of would-be base stealers this year? That's a terrific percentage.
Well, 30 is considered to be great.
Well, this guy, you know, when you think about what he has to offer, he's a left-handed hitting catcher. You know that's a premium. He can catch and he can throw.
I'll tell you what's going to frustrate Omar Minaya, though. You know, the Expos had really had a combination that was pretty effective with Schneider and Michael Barrett behind the plate. Barrett never really fulfilled his promise in the Expos. They trade him to the Cubs in the offseason, and Barrett's having an incredible year. Gone crazy in Chicago.
Well, one thing is he's playing in front of a crowd every day. That helps a player. That gives it an edge.
Well, it does give you an edge.
I was told when Ralph Kiner played in Pittsburgh, after his final at-bat, big crowds would empty out.
Yeah, the Joe Gargiola said it was really an embarrassment because they go across the field to go through the exit gates in the outfield.
That pitch outside. And Jae Weong now frustrated himself. The 4-pitch walk to Schneider will bring up the pitcher. And Patterson walked his first time.
That long ball alley out there in left field is jam-packed tonight, eh? Pepsi picnic area. Big night every time on Wednesday night.
First pitch strike.
And you get into the ball game.
Yes.
Now ball 1-1 to Patterson.
Patterson put a pretty good swing on the ball when he came up his first time. Mets playing pretty much straight away and very shallow.
Right to Matsui. Force play, inning over. Well, the Mets' new third baseman get tested in the field, but he made the bunt play beautifully to start this half of the fourth.
The action continues on FSN New York. Catch a matinee at Shea as Matsui and New York take on Vidro and the Expos. Mets, Expos, tomorrow at noon on FSN New York, followed by the New York Stock Exchange postgame show.
Not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling. Mets. All right, let's get our Aflac trivia quiz. You know, it's funny, I was thinking about this very thing before the game tonight when I saw what number David Wright was wearing. And I couldn't remember this. You good with numbers, Ralph?
Not good, no.
Fran, you good with numbers?
Some numbers, yeah. Not all. About 3 of them. Number 5. Who would have worn number 5?
Yeah, well, that's a good one.
How about Jeff McKnight? That's a long time ago. John Olerud. Did he wear number 5?
I don't know. See where he was released.
It's unbelievable.
It is. Joe Foy, did he wear number 5?
Joe Foy. How about that?
I think he did.
Yes,
I think you're
so.
right.
I think that's what I remember.
Joe Foy was traded for Amos Otis.
The glider, didn't Eddie Charles wear number 5?
He wore 5, yeah, definitely.
What about John Olerud?
Yeah?
What did John Olerud wear?
I don't know.
It could be.
And let me tell you, numbers to players.
Healy, you could be right, Healy.
How
Healy,
about,
you know it all.
He used to call me something.
There's a fly ball by Wilson out to right field. And put away out there by Sledge. And there's one down.
It's amazing how numbers are so important to the players that are putting those numbers on their backs. They mean something special, like those guys that'll be a fan fest.
That's right. Well, hey, are we ready for Koosman?
Oh, we're ready for Koos. First trip into New York this year.
Jerry Koosman. He'll be one of the Met alums on hand this week. Fan Fest presented by Chevrolet. With all kinds of action just by the subway entrance at outside Gate E at Shea, 2.5 hours before the games against the Braves, which will be Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday day.
Chase alumni bringing them in. Rain Hamilton working those phones, getting all the guys into town.
I was in there talking with Rain Hamilton, and she was allowing Rusty Staub to pick out the wine that we're going to have in San Francisco for the sponsors.
That's a problem. An expensive problem.
That's a budget buster. That's going to be. Look at this. This is going to the center field fence. How about this for Jae Seo? Is he content to stop at second? Yes.
There's sometimes when you have to change your defensive alignments. And Jae Seo and his fans are going to force the Expos to rethink that alignment.
Well, he's right on top of the plate, where I like to see all hitters hit.
How about the follow-through on that swing? Is that classic?
It's a great swing.
I mean, the follow-through is great. Of course, Jay had a pinch running highlight earlier this year. And they make sure they put the brakes on him, so that is his first extra base hit of the year.
Frank Robinson's going to talk to whoever's in charge of the defensive alignment.
Reyes fouls one back.
They have the center field in right center field for Jae Seo.
It's the second double of Jae Seo's career. Chavez was playing pretty much in right center.
He was in right center field, and there was a huge gap straightaway center field. Chavez had to chase that ball down. Now it's up to Jose Reyes.
His fly to center struck out tonight.
Look at that. Oh, I thought he was going to
So did I. Now, the only problem with all that is it can be a distraction to the hitter.
Well, he had a stolen base this year, Jae Seo.
Well, the other thing is doing it against the wrong type of hitter. You don't want a left-hand batter up and you're trying to steal third because it's wide open for the catcher.
Well, wouldn't that, Ralph? I mean, that could be a real distraction for Reyes.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
The guy dancing around is right in his line of vision.
You know what? It's 3-0. If he wants to steal it, let him go.
And Reyes pops this up. Cabrera will take it.
Jose Reyes stole third base the other night with 2 outs. It turned out to be a big stolen base. He scored on a pass ball. Pretty much jumping around at second base. The 3, 4, and 5 hitters in your lineup like to get that runner out at second base to be calm. Don't distract them.
I've had a number of hitters through the years I've done this telling me they didn't want guys at first base. They had the right-hand hitters. Right-handers would tell you that a runner running from first would distract.
Yeah, it does. And if the count's 3-1, you see it all the time in baseball. They have the runner at first base going. If you're a good hitter, I mean a real good hitter, you don't want that runner going. You want to be able to pick your pitch and take the pitch if it's not a pitch to hit.
You know, Ralph, our buddy Harmon Killebrew, when he was in Kansas City when I was playing there, he told me that the guy running down the third baseline trying to distract the pitcher was distracting to him.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. You don't know whether it's going to be coming or not.
He said Billy Martin, when he coached for the Minnesota Twins, he would tell the runners to, cause havoc on the base pass and so Harmon would step out and tell him, will you calm him down? Because it was distracting to the hitter.
He didn't hit very well, though. He only had 507 home runs.
Matsui delivers, base hit. Jae Seo's coming home. Here's Sledge with a throw. It's way offline. So scores, and Matsui's RBI hit winds him up at second base.
And a real bad throw, not because it was offline, because it could not be cut off. And the runners are able to go on down to second base and score in position. He had a good shot at making a good throw here to get the runner. Charging the ball well, but way up the line, but way high. And that's one thing you can't do.
2-out base hit. Nothing like it. Jae Seo scores easily. His fans reacting in the stands. And Jae Seo and the Mets have a 4-0 lead here in the bottom of the 4th inning.
So with 2 outs, Wigginton tries to come up with a hit. Ty is hit to a fielder's choice and walked.
You know, hitters' positions in the batting order used to be very important to hitters. Here's Wigginton, who's being rumored to be traded off this ball club because he isn't going to fit in. He's batting 3rd in this ball game.
It's also a confidence builder.
You got to think so.
It's funny because players, when they first get in the big leagues, they say, I don't care where I hit as long as I'm in the lineup. Then they have some success. I want to bat up in the lineup.
Well, there are better positions to hit him for RBIs and runs scored and everything else, which you get paid on.
Wow, 3-0 now.
I don't want to be an 8th place hitter.
That's exactly right. What's wrong with 8th place, though?
Well, you get walked a lot.
How about 9th place? You ever walk into the clubhouse and see your name 9th in the lineup?
Never. That'd be an insult.
That was insulted many times.
Happened to you?
Well, that was with the DH.
Well, then, yeah, that's it with the DH. Not as bad there.
Oh, you can rationalize it.
The insult. It happened. I guess Billy Martin did it with Rick Rhoden a little bit with the Yankees. And I remember Eddie Stanky when he managed the Chicago White Sox. Gary Peters. He hit Gary Peters 6th. Can you imagine?
He was a good hitter, though.
But you imagine the guys hitting below him?
Yeah, no, really.
Well, how about when they had McGuire at St. Louis and the manager of the Cardinals would...
A walk to Wigginton. Well, that's interesting. Is it...
Change the batting order for McGuire.
Well, Tony La Russa had a little brief spell there where he hit the pitcher 8.
Yeah.
He was trying to duplicate what the American League gives you with that 9th spot. It's just when they did it with you, Franny, you were a second leadoff hitter, right?
Because of my speed,
exactly
I believe
right.
they said.
Exactly right.
Or I said it.
Now Cliff Floyd's got a chance here with 2 down. Cliff struck out in the 1st, walked in the 3rd. Scored on Hidalgo's 3-run homer. Matsui with an RBI hit here in the 4th, and now the Mets really trying to make this a hurt inning on John Patterson. Floyd fouls it back. Now there's another game that is of interest. Well, there's 2 other games of interest in the National League tonight. The Braves are playing at home out of the division. They're playing Pittsburgh. And it's an intriguing game, not only for the score, which is there, but the Pittsburgh starter tonight is Chris Benson. So you know that there got to be a ton of scouts there.
He's one of the pitchers to be rumored to going somewhere else besides Pittsburgh.
And they're waiting for him to live up to that great word potential.
And Fran, last couple of starts, as Sonny Kim is warming up for the Expos, the last couple of starts, Benson's pitched great. And he's on that way again tonight. There's a hard foul, and it's 0-2.
But they've been expecting, of course, his career has been hurt by injuries, and they've been expecting Benson to be a big winner for a number of years in the major leagues. It's almost like Paul Wilson.
There's the score in Philadelphia tonight. That's A.J. Burnett against Kevin Millwood.
Well, the Cardinals have been the one club that it was rumored they would not have good pitching, and they're getting real good pitching. And Wilson's one reason that Cincinnati's doing well.
1-2 to Cliff.
Wilson, of course, a #1 draft choice in the nation, signed by the New York Mets. Got hurt and never saw the light here.
Question around Cincinnati now. They're still in the wild card chase. Will they deal Paul Wilson and or Corey Lytle to a team?
All of a sudden, both of those guys have become very valuable.
Fouled away. But the big pressure, I think, is on the guy in Pittsburgh, Dave Littlefield, because I don't think there's any argument right now. The best right-handed starting pitcher in the National League is Jason Schmidt, San Francisco. I mean, his numbers this year are extraordinary, and this is a guy that Dave Littlefield traded away 3 years ago and doesn't have anything to show for it.
I don't think it was Dave Littlefield, was it?
Yes, it was.
He was a GM at the time?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
That was his first year.
It was first big trade. Inside to Cliff. And, you know, no one expected Jason Schmidt to do what he's done. But the reality is he doesn't have anything really to show for it.
Yep.
And he can't afford to have the same thing happen with Benson.
And when he was traded away, as you mentioned, nobody was expecting
that he'd become what he has.
Yeah, I mean, he throws the ball in mid to high 90s now, blowing National League hitters away.
Called foul.
And one of the reasons he was forced to get rid of Jason Schmidt is they felt they couldn't sign him.
And absolutely, which is the same situation with Benson. Here's the ball into Cliff.
Got to run in the fastball there, and that's about as foul as you can hit a ball.
So you know what he's thinking? His bat is slow right now, and it happens to players, so he's going to cheat a little, and he cheated a lot there and pulled that fastball. Will he be vulnerable to an off-speed pitch? Away. Once you start cheating,
you get caught.
Yeah, you get caught when you're trying to speed up that bat, because you speed up that bat, he throw you something off speed away. You can't check your swing.
Two. Three and two.
Do you remember the hitter that pulled the ball foul over the top of the St. Louis Cardinals Stadium? Luga, I think his name was. And he's the only man that hit a ball out of the stadium. But he pulled it like this one, only he hit it much higher, farther.
All right, runners will be moving here. Ooh. And Cliff just got under one. And he pops it up into right field. And let's see, they lost it. No, but Chavez came in to take it. Termel Sledge lost that ball. And Endy Chavez saved the day for the Expos. He found it in right center field. Well, it all started with a Jae Weong Seo double. The Mets get a run.
Not too close. What do you think? I got that insurance?
What insurance is that, Yogi?
The one you really need to have. If you don't have it, that's why you need it.
Need what?
Well, if you get hurt and miss work, it won't hurt to miss work. And they give you cash, which is just as good as money.
Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Jae Weong with a 4-run lead to face the top of Montreal's order. And Brad Wilkerson takes ball one to be followed by Chavez and Vidro. The Expos have not been in Montreal since June 25th. This will be a when they finally get home, 25-game, 28-day trip, including the All-Star break.
Well, you know, we always say it is the big leagues, but it's unfair for these players.
Yep, and Wilkerson just got one here. Hidalgo will watch it, and Brad Wilkerson puts Montreal on the board, banks it off the scoreboard, his 17th home run.
Well, we mentioned Brad Wilkerson was in the race for Rookie of the Year in his rookie season. That was home run number 17 for Brad Wilkerson, having a solid season. His average is the only thing struggling with him. He's got that 225, but Wilkerson is a good player. Struggling with the average, got 17 home runs and 35 RBIs.
So Wilkerson puts Montreal on the board. Chavez the batter.
He gets a fastball and hits it a long way off the scoreboard in right field. And the Expos are on the board. More ways than one.
Yep. 2 strikes now to Chavez. Wilkerson was, he'll enjoy this. Wilkerson used to pitch. He was a pitcher in college at the University of Florida. Was an Olympian, gold medalist in the 2000 Olympics for the U.S.
And the ballpark in Montreal was built for the Olympic Games, and they should have torn it down after that.
They should have. It's really hurt Major League Baseball there.
Chavez to right field. Hidalgo makes the catch. hung up in the air, and Richard Hidalgo played it nicely.
Oh, Hidalgo going to his left and making that grab in an uncomfortable fashion, but he can play that outfield and he can really throw.
Now, talking about Montreal, good play by the right fielder. Ron Fairley, who played for the Expos in Montreal, said he once one summer went 0 for 14. 5 days in summer out there.
Yeah, the one good thing about the Big O is they have a roof.
Now it won't open.
I know it's our Montreal Expos Mercedes-Benz League leaders. Look at Vladimir Guerrero, Jose Vidro, Tim Raines, Rondell White, and Moise Salou.
Matsui catches the liner off Vidro's bat.
Well, they've had some great players up there. How about Cromartie?
I saw Warren Cromartie down there in Florida. Spends a lot of time around those Florida Marlins. And that was Valentine.
Valentine, how about him? He was a good player.
How about Rusty Staub?
Rusty, of course.
Gary Carter.
Lawrence, yeah.
So the Expos bullpen continues. I'll tell you what, Jae Weong hadn't fooled anybody in this inning. I mean, 4 shots, a home run, 2 line drive outs, and now a single by Batista. Loud swings for the Expos.
Look at that strike. Boy, you talk about diving across home plate.
He goes from one extreme to the other with that left leg. Let's go back to that Affleck trivia question and find out who did wear number 5.
Last Met.
Shinjo.
Oh, that's right. How can we forget Shinjo?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's entertaining the folks in Japan again.
He's back there. Limos and sunglasses.
Playing for Bobby V, isn't he?
I don't think he's playing.
Oh, he's not playing for Bobby?
I don't think he's playing for Bobby's team.
Because he was one of Bobby's favorites.
Benny Agbayani is, and Matt Franco is. And I knew Mike Santini reminds me, that's right. I saw Shinjo was the MVP of the All-Star game there.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about how important numbers are to players.
Sledge to the left field corner. This is going to be a tough play for Cliff. Slicing away from him, and Floyd runs it down. Boy, that was tough, and Cliff Floyd played it well. I tell you, the Mets have some defense in this inning.
How about this? All the way out to the AmeriQuest sign, and he ran into it.
Hey, Saturday night on MSG Network. Don't miss Sports History. How about this? A sporting event on the great stage at Radio City. That's right.
I'd love to see that, baby.
New York Liberty. Well, you can see it if you'd like to go. That's 2 great ways down there to get tickets, or you can see it on MSG Saturday night, 7:30 for the Liberty and Detroit. And the following Saturday against Connecticut.
How about that beautiful building, Radio City, and they're going to have a basketball game? That should be quite an event. Just to look at the configuration.
Sun Woo Kim, he's called Sonny by all of his teammates. Sonny Kim on to pitch here for Montreal, which means we now have an all-Korean pitching matchup. Baseball in the 21st century. Hidalgo fires. Cabrera throws out.
This is another reason why baseball is so good. You have an expanded pool of talents. As you just mentioned, 2 guys from Korea pitching at Shea Stadium tonight. And there's going to be more to come.
And this is exactly a perfect example as we see Cameron hit. And David Wright next. Why baseball needs the World Cup concept that they're trying to get going. It's a great idea, and why Olympic baseball is a total failure. There's a base hit for Cameron into the gap. Chavez, Mike put the brakes on.
Yeah, surprise.
After Chavez bobbled, Mike had already stopped, so he'll settle with a single.
He had a great chance to make the run all the way out before the ball was dropped. He could have gone to second base if the ball was caught cleanly. But he decided not to go and didn't take advantage of what he could be able to do.
Boy, this David Wright, if you missed it, he's over 2, but when he's walking around the field, he has the body language of a player who belongs in the big leagues.
Yep.
He went through the minor leagues in a hurry.
So here's David Wright. He is fouled out to the catcher. Schneider making a terrific play going into the Montreal dugout. That was in the second inning. Grounded to third in the third inning.
He's had some good swings in his first 2 at-bats. Mets are hoping he can swing the bat in the big leagues just like he did it in AA and AAA this year. But there's an adjustment period, transition period, getting comfortable in the major leagues.
Yeah, in New York, would you say 5-6 minutes?
Yeah, right.
One thing about his career, his lifestyle is sure going to change. Now makes the minimum salary in the major leagues, which is in the millions.
Got that in on the hands, and Cabrera ranges out into shallow center to catch it.
Well, they broke his bat on that swing. He got jammed with a fastball inside. And he's had 2 spectacular catches made against him.
He's just slow right there, Ralph, getting through the zone, but looks good at the plate, gets his hands back. Got jammed there. Cabrera makes the grab, but short, compact stroke, powerful looking swing, and just he get beat by the ball.
He has a good swing. There's no doubt about that.
So here's Vance Wilson now, who has singled the left line to right. Cameron taking off, and he'll steal easily. So a 2-out steal for Mike Cameron.
Well, we talked about the percentage, 50% throwing out runners. Look at that. Schneider gets rid of the ball quickly. Ball just offline. If that ball is on target, he's got a shot at Cameron. Boy, remind me of Thurman Munson the way he get rid of that ball.
Yeah, down sidearm.
Now they'll walk Vance Wilson. Are they sure they want to do this? Mets have a tremendous, continue to have the best stolen base record in the National League in terms of percentage. They have 63 steals now as a team. They've only been caught 14 times.
By the way,
big edge for the Mets.
In the 7th inning now, the Pittsburgh Pirates are on top of the Atlanta Braves 4-1.
Well, the Mets have seldom, and I wonder if that's the right word, have had anybody that could steal the base. Now, they did have Coleman, Vince Coleman.
Right. Ricky briefly.
And a little bit with Ricky.
Cedeno for the 1 year. Well, here's Jae Seo. So these former Korean mates face each other. Jae with a single and a double. Just to finish the point I was making before Wright came up about why the World Cup is so important for baseball, international baseball. Here we are a month away from the Olympic Games. Baseball will be played. Look at Endy Chavez. He's still in right center field. And the U.S., the defending gold medalists, won't be there. And Korea, which won the bronze medal in Sydney, won't be there either. How can you really have an Olympic baseball tournament without 2 of the 3 medal winners? Then we'll go to the 6th, and it's 4-1 Nets.
Fans, get out of your seats. And
this inning, I think, very carefully. Jae Seo had 4 very good innings, and then the 5th inning, he was hit hard and bailed out by terrific defense. So now in a 4-1 game, he'll face Cabrera, then Johnson and Schneider.
That's a good point, Deb, because the manager and the pitching coach, you know, they're well aware when one of their pitchers goes through an inning like Chuck and Duck. And if you can stay away from those innings, you're going to have a good outing. If you have some of those innings and the ball's hit right at the infielders, now you really got to view the pitcher in a different manner going forward.
Well, he comes right out with 2 strikes to Cabrera. T.J. Tucker in the Montreal bullpen. Expos working down toward the pitcher spot. Boy, kept that one in a good spot. Cabrera off the end of the bat. 1 down. And let's go to Bill Daughtry.
Well, thanks, guys. And standing with Islander goaltender Rick DiPietro, hosting a group of young cancer patients from Winthrop University Hospital, doing the good work. How'd you get involved with this organization?
Well, throughout the season, we make trips to the hospital for Christmas and other holidays to give them presents and just do whatever we can to cheer their days up. And was talking with the Islanders over the summer, and we decided to take some of these young Met fans out and catch a game.
Well, as I understand it, this used to be your game. Young David Wright, young phenom, making his debut tonight. You got a feeling for what he's going through? You were in the same position with the Islanders once.
You know what? He's definitely nervous, but the first game I think is the easiest. You're kind of not thinking about it. It's pretty much mostly adrenaline, but as he starts to settle in for the next couple games, that's when it's going to get harder and harder.
I don't know. I don't know if I can keep talking to this guy. A center fielder from Boston. I gave him the little gets by Buckner deal. He's a little upset with me now.
Yeah, I still wake up in cold sweats thinking about that game.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully you'll be playing hockey when the time comes this season. Rick DiPietro, let's go back to the guys in the booth.
All right, Bill, thank you. David Wright gets a one-hopper from Nick Johnson.
Look at the throw right here. Good arm, great accuracy.
So 2 down. Brian Schneider will bat. Nobody's smiling more during that chat with Rick DiPietro than our colleague Kevin Meininger, who's sitting alongside tonight. His final game with us this year.
We're going to miss him.
Because Kevin needs that 6-month break to get ready for the beginning of the next hockey season.
He's got to rest up. We've known him for years. He takes life seriously.
There's a fly ball to Cameron, and the Expos go in order, so that's a good inning. And a nice bounce-back inning for Jae Seo. Is by with NHL news. And now hopefully the Maven will have some good news for our hockey friends. They can find some sanity and get that situation square. Well, in the bottom of the 6th, it'll be Reyes, Matsui, and Wigginton for the Mets against Sonny Kim. Reyes 0 for 3 tonight. And immediately gets that starting pitcher out of the game, jumps on the reliever for a base hit.
Swinging the bat a lot better now, waiting well on the ball, good balance. All Ralph was a matter of getting his timing down.
Well, he missed so much time in spring training and also during the beginning of the season. That's pretty important.
And he's got that magic smile also. As you look at our Jeep game summary, David Wright 0 for 3. Richard Hidalgo, he got him. 3-run home run in the 3rd. Jae Seo pitching well and also has a couple blows in tonight's game. Kaz Matsui, an RBI single in the 4th. 2 out RBI single in the 4th.
Matsui walked and lined to first his other trips tonight.
You can look for Reyes to be running here.
Pretty good matchup with Schneider behind the plate, the way he gets rid of the ball quickly. But as Ted mentioned, the Mets have been very successful in stolen base attempts.
Well, how interesting is it now? We showed the earlier at-bats how the Expos were defensing Kaz to hit the ball the other way. And yet right now they've got Cabrera shading towards second base, the shortstop. They've got a huge gap on the left side of the infield.
Well, the double play in order is somebody has to cheat.
Yeah, but it's interesting if you were going to play him away, right?
Yeah.
You would think that they'd have the second baseman cheat.
You would probably figure that where he's playing right now is that he's going to cover second.
Right.
He knows he's got to get over there.
Absolutely.
Now it's funny because they're set up, as you mentioned, Ted, for him to hit the ball the other way, yet they're concerned that he might pull the ball.
Right. And I'm saying that the outfield defense is different than the infield defense. Whoa. Got him. Reyes picked off.
Pretty good move right there. That was quick.
Reyes pleading his case with Marty Foster.
He was going.
And he's safe. He has a good case.
He does have a good case.
He got back. I mean, it was closer than you'd like it to be, but he was back.
Nick Johnson's tag, I guess, wasn't as quick as the first base umpire thought it was going to be. Sometimes umpires anticipate.
So Matsui to center field, and now very quickly 2 down in the inning. So to bring up Wigginton, who's 0 for 1 with a couple of walks tonight in Atlanta. In the bottom of the 8th inning now. This continues to be a story that has a lot of impact here and around baseball. It's still 4-1 Pittsburgh leading at Atlanta, and Chris Benson has allowed 2 hits through 7 innings.
He's picking it up when he needs to pick it up.
You got to think that the Pirate management is really happy about that.
Absolutely right.
He's talked glowingly about the New York Mets and Rick Peterson. They call that tampering? Can't be if Benson's doing the talking.
I guess he can say what he wants.
To the backhand of Vidro. And a soft throw. Boy, Vidro just did not make a good throw, and Wigginton is safe.
He got nothing on that throw to first base. They had time.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you, that I can't help but say this. That reminded me of a play that Alomar made here. That's the way Alomar played when he he's a much better player than that. He just would play balls casually.
You know what that reminded me of? A day game after a night game throw.
Yeah. I mean, Vidro's too good a player for that. So an error, and now Cliff Floyd at the plate.
That reminds you of a day game after a day off.
And Cliff's going to go through a hole for a base hit. With Cabrera shading the middle, that was the vacant shortstop spot, so 2 on. With 2 out now for the Mets, and Hidalgo will bat. Hidalgo with a strikeout and a ground out, sandwiching that 3-run homer in the 3rd. Marlins have tied the Phillies at 1 in the 7th inning in Philadelphia tonight. Good news for Philadelphia, and that is that Kevin Millwood is now pitching a 2nd straight terrific game. And Mike Piazza you can see he's wearing it's like a soft cast on his left wrist. A good movement on that pitch for a strike.
Ralph will go back to that 3rd inning. Richard Hidalgo?
No doubt about that one. He has put together some pretty good games and has won this ball club. More than pretty good.
10 home runs, 22 RBIs for Hidalgo in 29 games as a Met. Well, the Mets have had plenty of chances tonight. They have 4 runs, but they've also left 8 runners on base, and they've got 2 more out here in the bottom of the 6th.
Even though Hidalgo didn't play much for Houston, he's on a pace to have 100 RBIs and lead the club by a big margin over Piazza.
Now this play right here, what happened is you're not expecting the catcher to kick the ball, right. And he kicked it, and Ty Wigginton's trying to get a read from down there at second base. Sometimes you just can't judge because of the slope of the diamond.
And isn't the rule of thumb if a runner, if you don't start right away, then just don't go.
Yeah. And it's funny, we talk about the slope of a diamond. Some diamonds you feel like you're hitting uphill, there's a slope. And Ralph, you said at Evans Field it felt like you were hitting downhill.
Downhill, yes.
Hidalgo pulls that pitch away from him, and Cabrera forces out Floyd at second. Ralph, a pleasure to have you with us again. And we'll go to the 7th inning. Reyes got caught here, and the Mets take a 4-1 lead to the 7th.
Hey fans, catch the energy at Shea on Friday, July 23rd. See the Mets take on their division rivals, the Atlanta Braves. Be one of the first 12,000 kids 12 and under to attend the 7-10 game and receive a Mets Kids Bag, courtesy of MetLife. For your tickets, stop by Shea Stadium or Keyspan Park, visit a Mets clubhouse shop, log on to Mets.com, or simply call 718-507-TIXX.
So to the 7th inning. go the Mets, and Jae Weong goes there again. He finished 7 innings in his last start against the Phillies, the first time that Jay has done that this year. Now he faces Henry Mateo with that unusual stance, pinch hitting to start the inning.
Well, those scores now, Pittsburgh in the 8th inning on top of the Braves 4-1, and Philadelphia with the 2-1 lead over Florida. And one thing Philadelphia has had trouble doing the past 2 years is beating the Marlins. I believe it's 17 out of 19.
Oh, yeah. Philly's got that lead.
Scoreboard watching second half of the baseball season.
Mateo to right. Hidalgo can't play it. Just a short hopping. So a pinch single for Mateo. That's going to get the bullpen cranked up, I think, for the Mets.
And you take a look at that replay.
All right, well, fans, you can choose your own camera angles for live game action. You can direct your own replays. You can try to do this at home. How about that? MSG Network's Game Director. That's only on the IO digital cable service from Cablevision. Not that, man. It's like having your own video game.
You know, they predicted that a while back, and now it's coming to fruition. And once again, Cablevision, a pioneer in cable television and also HD TV. Now you can direct your own games. You know, that's right up your alley, Ted, because I see you work the computer.
Yeah, that's what some call it, working. Hey, this one is one of those games. You know, look, the Mets have a lead right now, and the Expos are certainly not a juggernaut. But this has those kind of games that have a little bit of an uneasy feel to it because the Mets have left a lot of men on base tonight.
And last night the game had an uneasy feel, and also the night before against the Marlins.
Yeah. The Marlins are a much better team.
Well, the thing is, on a given night in baseball, anybody can win.
Oh, that's why in the Met dugout now, a lot of the veterans, I guarantee you they're saying, "Nah, we've left 10 guys on, and we could, you know, it should be 8-1, 9-1." It's not.
How about that right there?
Brad Wilkerson takes a ball. Wilkerson grounded out, grounded into a double play, and then homered to right in the 5th inning. Mike Stanton gets the first call in the bullpen for the Mets tonight. Chavez on deck. Vidro's behind him, so that's working toward the middle of the Expos order. And a strike, 2-1. And this is where the Mets hope to get Jae Weong more frequently, and where they really need to get the rotation is pitching more frequently, at least into the 7th. Get, you know, enough innings that you do take a little bit of a load off the bullpen. 2-2.
Well, in our keys to the game, Hyundai keys to the game, talked about getting Jae Weong to pitch deeper into the ball game, take some heat off the bullpen, and that was our second key to the game. It said Weong needed his right stuff, and you got Stanton thrown in the bullpen. They're the keys to the game: having the right stuff, play off David Wright, take advantage of the right situation. That's against the Expos, and of course the final one was all about Jae Weong.
To this point, he has been right. A leadoff pinch hit by Mateo, and it's 2-2 to Wilkerson. Jae Weong is pitching carefully here. You can tell the home run has had a little bit of an effect on Jae Weong.
You know what's amazing, Ted? Managers and coaches hate it when a pitcher walks a hitter. They don't like the single or the home run either, but they hate it with the walk. The pitcher, the only thing they're shocked at is when they give up the home run. You go out to the mound after a pitcher gives up a home run, and his mind is someplace else. A lot of pitchers will never throw that pitch the rest of the game to that same hitter, that same pitch.
Well, Jae's normally goes right at hitters. He's being very careful here with Wilkerson. Fouled away. Jae is over 100 pitches, 103 now.
Well, Jae Seo was shocked coming out of spring training when he didn't make the cut with the 25-man roster. And Rick Peterson looking on.
Runner going, and Wilkerson executes perfectly. Matsui covered, and Wilkerson finds the hole. And now the Expos have first and third with nobody out.
Well, Wilkerson, who went deep earlier in his ball game, slaps that ball in a vacated spot where Matsui had left to cover second base. And they executed the hit and run perfectly. Now the Expos have runners on first and third. Vance Wilson has been told to go out to the mound to talk to Jae Seo, and that's what he's done. Mike Stanton continues to throw the ball in the bullpen. Here comes Art Howe. We'll get a double switch.
So Stanton will come on to face Chavez, or at least Chavez due to bat. Vidro behind him is switch hitter. And Shane Spencer comes out to play left field, so that's the switch by the Mets. And lo and behold, what we talked about at the start of the inning, just a little, not quite as comfortable close to this game as the Mets would like. They lead by 3, but the Expos threaten in the 7th. And Mike Stanton answers the direct connect call to the bullpen. Well, Cablevision subscribers, you can see the Mets in stunning high def on MSG and FSN New York for no additional charge. Just go to the website you see there, io.tv/MetsHD. And you go there, you sign up for the best in high def programming and enter the IO Clear Winner Sweepstakes, where you can win a Mets road trip and an HD plasma TV.
There's our OTV finishing lines. And the finishing line reads like that. 1 strikeout, 3 walks, 6 innings for Jae Seo. Now we're going to turn to the bullpen. Mike Stanton's in the ball game.
Well, the Mets would have really hoped that Jae Seo could have gotten that through this inning starting at the bottom of the order, but the Mets instead will go to the pen. Stanton will face the left-handed batting Chavez. Then the switch hitting Vidro. Game 54 for Stanton. Spencer in left field in the double switch. Mike Stanton continues to lead the league in games. Jim Brower of San Francisco tied with him starting play today. Chavez hit the ball pretty well against Seo tonight. Had a double and then was robbed of a hit by Hidalgo. Chavez 0 for 3 against Stanton lifetime. Boy, hits that one really well. And unbelievably, this game is tied. Endy Chavez hits his 5th home run of the year. And that uneasy feeling that we mentioned earlier is here.
Boy, Chavez buggy whipped that bat, driving that ball over the right center field wall, and has shocked the New York Mets here in the 7th inning.
It is the 2nd home run that Chavez has hit off a lefty this year. And it's the 4th home run that Stanton has allowed to a left-hand batter.
Watch him buggy whip this. Gets the head of the bat out there. Who said left-handers can only hit the low ball? That was a high ball, and it was driven over that right center field wall.
Bunted foul by Vidro.
Do you see Jae Weong's reaction? He realizes right now he's not going to be involved in the decision. The only way he was going to be involved when he left the ball game was with the W.
No swing, 2 balls and a strike. Well, the Mets have been stung by home runs in these situations now. That's 7 home runs that left-hand batters this year have hit off the Mets left-handed relievers. And that's an unlikely guy to do it.
You know, you go to that plate, you swing that bat, you got a chance, especially if you got somebody that can supply your power for you.
Yep.
Pitchers will tell you, anybody with a bat in their hand at home plate is a threat.
And Stanton throws a nice breaking ball there to get Vidro.
So Vidro, the guy you'd be concerned about here, swings over the top of a backdoor breaking ball. And there's one man down here in the 7th inning. It's one of those ball games, Ted, as you know, that now the Mets in that dugout have to get geared up. It's a brand new game, and you can't get down after losing the 2 games to the Marlins and stay down because the team tied you who you're playing tonight.
So Batista, the batter, 1 for 3. And Sledge behind him. Two balls, no strikes. It almost seems like when you've been around baseball that you can feel these kinds of games happening.
Yes,
and the Mets
absolutely
had that feeling tonight. And it's happened to them the last couple of nights. Remember, 2 nights ago, Spencer hit a 3-run homer in the 1st inning, and the Mets didn't do a whole lot of scoring after that. Last night, Hidalgo 3-run homer in the 3rd inning gave the Mets the lead. Not a whole lot after that. 3-run homer by Hidalgo tonight in the 3rd inning. Mets have added 1 more, but they've left 10 runners on. Three and 1 to Batista.
We're going to talk about this Batista's the way he stands at the plate. Look at that. Look at that left foot. It's in the batter's box because it's on the line. You got to hit the ball with your feet in the batter's box. Henry Aaron lost a home run because he hit a ball with his front foot out of the batter's box.
There's a base hit. So Batista singles, 1 out in the inning. And it will bring up Sledge.
Batista with those quick hands getting that ball and spanking that baby in the left field.
Well, the fans obviously are upset. You know, this is another issue that the Mets are going to have to, at some point, I think, encounter with Stanton. I mean, his workload just is not going to be able. I mean, realistically, there's no way you can expect this workload to continue.
And he's not going to tell you.
And he won't. He can't. Exactly. He won't say it.
It's not his personality.
The number of games that he has pitched in, just do the math. It just doesn't work. And that's where, at some point, it's going to be incumbent that the Mets are probably going to have to find some left-handed help. There's a strike to Sledge. Moreno beginning to warm up. The other thing that can happen, and this is one thing that we saw, I think, the last couple of nights. There's a swinging strike. You know, it isn't against the law for a right-handed pitcher to get left-hand hitters out.
I know
it. And that's part of the specialization in the game that sometimes gets forgotten.
Well, it's also like, you know, another example. You're not supposed to throw a changeup if you're left-handed to a left-handed batter. I mean, who came up with that theory? Left-handers can get left-handers and right-handers out. Right-handers can do the same. But it's become such a specialty, bringing a left-hander in to face a left-handed pitcher or a right-hander for a right-handed pitcher, no matter who it is. And it was started by Tony La Russa.
But I think for Art Howe, his life would be made much easier if a right-hander emerges in his bullpen that he can rely on to get left-handers out.
Well, basically, the manager's going to go with the pitcher who he has confidence in, somebody that has proven he can get hitters out. I know occasionally you wonder why so-and-so is not up in the bullpen or why he doesn't come in. It's because the manager at that time doesn't have confidence in that pitcher. He likes to go with the hot hand. And I don't blame him. You got to win now.
One and two to Sledge. One out. Batista at first. That is going to be out of play.
You know, Ted, I think it's going to go back more and more. We're seeing closers coming in the ball game in the 8th inning as opposed to just the 9th inning. They're coming in with runners on the bases. I think it's going to go back to where the manager's gut feeling is, you know what? If my right-hander is going to come in, he can get that left-hander out, I'm bringing him in. And that's going against the modern-day book.
Two and two.
9th inning, you have your stud coming in out of the bullpen. He's going to pitch to right-handers and left-handers.
Well, 3-run homers on both sides tonight, and a 4-4 game now in the 7th. Stanton has already thrown 18 pitches, just the 4th man that he's faced. And so right now the Mets are getting Moreno ready. It's a pretty tough load on Stanton. A bluff start. Sledge goes around.
That ball,
didn't.
Did that ball hit Sledge's shirt? It sounded like it was a foul tip.
Well, he almost went around here.
Check it out again. He hit the. But it sounded like he could hit. Check out that shirt. Maybe he hit the bat.
I don't know. I know what you're saying. It sounded like it hit something. But it's now 3 and 2. We'll see if the Expos put Batista in motion. He's running and Sledge fouls it.
It's the bottom of the 9th inning in Atlanta now. The Pirates are leading 4-3 over the Braves.
Yeah. Jose Mesa came on to pitch the 9th, and J.D. Drew led off the inning with a home run. So that's a 1-run game now. And nobody out for Atlanta. Batista runs again. Ball hit to Reyes. Matsui just does get there. No double play, but boy, I tell you, that was close at second.
If that was, you know, Reyes really has a lot of confidence in himself. He gambled, but because of that good, strong arm, he's used to getting the runner. He gets the lead runner there, Matsui, throwing off balance because of the contact around second base. Couldn't get anything on the throw, but I'll tell you what, Reyes doesn't think about failure. He thinks I can get him, and he did right there. Oof.
Boy, did he. Kaz just got to the base a shade ahead of Batista. So 2 outs, Cabrera the batter, 2 for 3 tonight. Cabrera 0 for 4 lifetime against Stanton. Nick Johnson on deck for Montreal. Tucker ready to pitch, it appears, the bottom half of the 7th for the Expos. And Cabrera hit that off the end of the bat. This time it's Matsui to Reyes to put an end to the inning. But the Expos stun the Mets. A 3-run homer by Endy Chavez. And now the Mets will have Cameron, Wright, and Wilson due in the bottom half.
Take a look now at our Coca-Cola schedule against Montreal EXPOS to be tomorrow at noon on FS in New York. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all 3 ball games will be seen on WB11. That's our upcoming schedule. And we got a new pitcher, T.J. Tucker.
25-year-old Tucker. It's his 3rd year with the Expos. Out of the bullpen. And Cameron hits one into the hole. Cabrera, the leap, the throw, not in time. Cameron, his 2nd hit tonight.
So Mike Cameron getting on that baseline in a hurry as Cabrera goes in the hole. And Cameron now a table setter. As you're looking at it again, off balance throw. You're not going to get Mike Cameron, but it was close. Now David Wright's the batter. As you take a look at it again, another angle. So David Wright will bat with the runner on first base, and I gotta believe that he'll be allowed to swing the bat and get Vance Wilson on deck and then the pitcher.
The other issue here: do you give Cameron a chance to steal? He stole his last time. Bunt brings Batista racing in.
Yeah, they're gonna move him over. So it'll be up to Vance Wilson if they're gonna bunt. Right now, McElanthe doing, you know what, flashing signs again. They might take that bunt off. They're the third baseman charging rapidly to take away that bunted ball.
Wright takes a ball. Now lefty Joe Horgan in the bullpen. Giveaway there by Wright if he was intending to bunt.
By the way, you have Wilson to follow and then Shane Spencer. You had the double switch.
So what's interesting about the lefty warming up. I'm intrigued by that one.
You know, Ted, Frank Robinson has done it before. He doesn't care about left-handed, right-handed. I saw him bring in a pitcher. A left-hander was facing a left-handed batter through 2 balls. He brought a right-hander in to complete the at-bat. He was so mad.
It didn't work out too well when the Mets tried that this year.
No.
Well, David Wright this year in the minor leagues had pretty good walk-strikeout ratios, about 1-to-1, both AA and AAA. Now he's 2-0. Showing bunt. Showing it all the way and bunting it, and it's foul. Nick Johnson scooped it up foul.
Did David Wright bunt at all in AA and AAA?
I tell you this, I thinking along the same lines as you, and you know, I just can't fathom that he bunted an awful lot this year. I may be wrong on that one, but I can't imagine he did.
Well, big leagues is a different league. You have to do things you're not accustomed to doing in the minor leagues. A lot of guys bat 3rd and 4th in the minor leagues. They come into the big leagues, they bat 7th and 8th. Going right down the line with that bunt.
Yeah. But another concept of management in any business is to put your employees in the position where they have a chance to succeed. I think we're finding out whether or not David Wright has that ability to bunt a runner ahead. First big league night, to let him swing. With Cameron running, they gave Wright a chance, and he pops it to Wright. Caught by Sledge. So after one crack at the bunt, Mets gave David Wright a chance on hit and run.
So Vance Wilson, who has a hit in this game, had a big day the other day swinging that bat, will be the batter with Cameron on first base and Shane Spencer to follow.
Wilson is single flied out, and he was intentionally walked his last time. Well, Pirates, by the way, held on to win after J.D. Drew's home run. Mesa got the next 3 outs. So Atlanta has lost tonight. And Chris Benson, another strong outing to pick up a victory. I don't think it'll be his last start. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pirates wait right down to the end to trade him. Vance flies one here to right center. Chavez calls it. Center fielder takes it, 2 down. So the leadoff hit by Cameron. He's still at first base. And Shane Spencer bats for the first time.
So here's the double switch, and it could work out if Shane Spencer can do something at the plate.
Or do you give Cameron a real green light here with 2 outs, see if he can steal?
Well, I got to believe Cameron has the green light as soon as he gets on base. The only thing they would have is a stop sign for somebody like Mike Cameron. But Art Howe is a very aggressive manager, and the Mets have proven it with their stolen base production this year.
They've been, as we mentioned earlier, great percentage for the Mets. Tucker looks like he's getting the ball to the plate fairly well. Schneider record shows he's thrown well.
Schneider gets rid of that ball so quickly. And we mentioned his percentage of throwing out would-be base stealers. Coming into tonight's action, he was at 50%. That's incredible today.
To the right side, nice scoop by Nick Johnson. And he takes a hit from Shane Spencer. We go to the 8th at Shea. Still tied. Points desk after the game on MSG. David Wright has played well in the field his first game, hit less than 4 at-bats. Now the Mets keep Mike Stanton in to face a couple of left-hand batters, Nick Johnson and Brian Schneider, in the Montreal half of the 8th.
We were talking about Frank Robinson. He's not a real big believer in the platoon where a left-handed pitcher's pitching to a left-handed batter. I got to go to a right-handed hitter. Frank would have been an interesting manager managing in New York.
Why?
He had his own book.
Yes. Fouled away.
He'd be one of those guys I think that people would tend not to second guess. Like Bill Parcells. They don't second guess Bill Parcells. Frank has that.
To his face, you mean?
Yeah. Frank has that demeanor and the credentials. Great hitter. Ralph has always said he might have been the best of all of them.
Fouled away again. Well, I mean, the numbers 580. I always forget the exact number. 580 something home runs.
And you know, the other thing is he was what a player. I mean, he could do it all. One thing he had trouble was the throwing, hurt his arm as a youngster. He was a great player with the Cincinnati Reds and the Baltimore Orioles. He influenced a lot of players. Don Baylor's one.
Absolutely. Ripped to center field. That's a base hit. So Nick Johnson starts the 8th inning for the Expos with a hit.
Now, Nick Johnson right there stays in the game and swings the bat from the left side of the plate, picks up a base hit. See that timing device with that right leg, and there he gets a pitch to hit, and he hits the ball hard into center field.
Johnson's hung it well. Johnson, with that at bat, that hit, he's hit .333 against lefties this year. 14 out of 42.
And the one thing about a left-hander against left-handed pitcher, I mean, you got to throw him in there. He's got to be in the line of fire in order to produce.
Spoken like a left-hand hitter. That's what they'll all tell you.
Yeah.
Left-handers always say nobody believes I can hit left-hand pitch. So Schneider will try to bunt. That's fouled away.
I remember guys telling me, you know, before I got into pro ball, I hit left-handed pitching pretty well. When I got into pro ball, they told me,
absolutely,
you're not
right.
supposed to be able to hit left-handers. And he said, I went into a slump. Moreno throws in a bullpen.
This is likely, well, we'll see. It could well be Stan's last hitter with Right-hander Rivera on deck to pinch hit. In the air, but back to the screen. So Schneider has failed twice. Juan Rivera to bat next. The interesting thing for Art Howe, depending on what Schneider's outcome is, behind Rivera there are 2 more left-hand hitters. One of them, of course, Chavez, tied the game with a 3-run homer off Stanton in the 7th. That'll be no swing, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Schneider held up.
So Schneider fails to advance the runner with the bunt. Now he's in a decent hitter situation. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
This next delivery will be the 33rd pitch for Stanton. And he strikes him out. So that's a big Met out there, and that Schneider's unable to advance the leadoff hit from Johnson.
You take a look at that pitch again, and he chases a bad ball that was running way outside off the plate. So big strikeout for Mike Stanton. And Juan Rivera will be the batter. And here comes Art Howe.
Yep. I would venture to say that the pitch count is the reason here. 33 pitches, a lot thrown by Mike in this outing. And so Moreno will get the summons here to see if he can handle the right-handed batting Juan Rivera. We're in the 8th. 4-all at Shea.
Juan Rivera.
Well, Mike Stanton faced 7 batters, and it was kind of a grind tonight for Stanton.
So Orber Moreno now will come in the ballgame. You see his numbers. 29 strikeouts.
Orber's a pretty good command for the season, but the other night, his last outing against the Marlins, he got hurt with a walk and a hit batsman, pitching with a 3-run lead. Now facing Rivera, who came with Nick Johnson from the Yankees in the trade that sent Javier Vasquez over. Rivera's had some chances to play this year. He has 186 at-bats. And right now, Termel's sledge has sort of really has jumped over Rivera. Play more in right field, Carl Everett being gone. Two-0. Wilkerson on deck. Mets have leaned very heavily on their bullpen through much of the year, and now these hot summer nights. There's a fastball challenge, 2-1. Some of the workloads, and it's when you start to tell. The bullpen really can feel in July and August. And I'll tell you what, the Mets are not the only team going to a lot of teams right now, at least around the National League, that you see that are scuffling in the bullpen. Boy, the Cubs yesterday lost a 7-1 lead, mostly out of the bullpen.
And the amazing thing is most major league teams rely on the bullpen more today than ever before. You know, when you go to the ballpark, you got a 90% chance of seeing a relief pitcher before that game is over.
Oh, that's what the Mets needed. Matsui and Reyes turn it. Big pitch from Orber Moreno. They get a double play for the pinch hitter Juan Rivera. And now the Mets will go to work in the bottom of the 8th. They'll have the top of the order. All right, John, thanks for that update. So now with the other games concluded in the National League East, here's where the standings are right now. Mets need a win to stay 3 out and stay even with the Marlins.
Florida Marlins losing tonight to the Phillies. Some bad blood there in Philadelphia. The Phillies were upset that Eric Milton wasn't picked for the All-Star team. As you look at Joe Horgan and his numbers.
So left-hander Joe Horgan will face Reyes, Matsui, and Wigginton. Turning Reyes and Matsui both around to the right side. Reyes 1 for 4 tonight. He singled to start the 6th inning and was picked off by Sonny Kim. Pulls it back 2-0. This is a brand new guy to the Mets. Horgan was acquired by Montreal in early May in a minor league trade from St. Louis. 18th appearance for the Expos. Braden Looper throwing just in case the Mets can put one on the board here in the bottom half. Ooh, Horgan missed there. 3-1.
Here's the table setter, Jose Reyes, and taking that pitch down low. But boy, I'll tell you one thing, that was close.
Yes. That's a strike. 3-2.
Jose Reyes working for a walk. Luis Ayala throwing in the bullpen, but Jose Reyes, the way he swings the bat, you'd like to see him be very aggressive at the plate.
Pops this one foul, and it may be playable for, yes it is, for Nick Johnson. So Reyes fouls out. Here comes Kaz Matsui. Kaz tonight singled in a run in the 4th inning. Singled at the time gave the Mets a 4-0 lead. He's also walked and he's lined out twice tonight. Right-handed this year, Matsui's hitting .302. Right-handed swing has really all year looked much more solid than his left-hand swing.
His left-hand swing, he got in trouble because his body was leaving the batter's box before the bat was coming through. From the right side, it's impossible to do that.
Up the middle. Vidro. Can he make the stronger throw this time? Yes, he does. So Vidro atones for the casual play on which he made an error in the 6th inning. Good play here.
Nice play as Vidro is heading toward left field. He flips the ball back, bounces it to Nick Johnson, and they get Matsui at first base.
Wigginton, the batter. 2 walks tonight for Ty. But you look at a Joe Horgan and you realize what the Expos are. They are the land of opportunity. Well, you guys, like a guy like Joe Horgan is in another team's minor league system, not getting a chance, and suddenly here.
Well, before free agency, when kids would sign, I know I signed before the draft, you would study the teams that were interested. You would try to sign with the weaker team, so it's the quickest way to the big leagues. Today, you're drafted as an amateur, and you have to sign with that team. So if you're drafted by a powerhouse, it's going to take you longer to get to the big leagues. So the best way to the big leagues is pray you get drafted by the Expos, hope you get in the big leagues in a hurry, and then you can move around.
So now it's 3-1 to Wigginton.
There's your old buddy right there, Ted.
Livan Hernandez.
He did a lot of his games out there in San Francisco.
was the all-star rep for the Expos this year. That's outside. So Wigginton walks for the 3rd time tonight. And it will give the Mets a chance here with Todd Zeile coming up to pinch hit. And we'll see now if Frank Robinson counters. I think he will. Yep, once Zeile is announced, Frank Robinson's going to bring in the right-hander Ayala.
And Frank had Todd Zeile last year when Todd was a member of the Montreal EXPOS. So he goes to the bullpen. The left-hander's out, the right-hander's in. Zeile's the batter.
So pitching change for Montreal here in the last of the 8th of a 4-4 game. Horgan got 2 outs, and now Ayala will try to get the Expos the 3rd. Right-hander Luis Ayala's 45th game out of the Expos bullpen. A lot of losses for a late inning guy. Great command, though. That's a big number. Almost 6 walks in 50 innings.
So if you're a hitter, you know those numbers. You know you're going to get a pitch to hit. And Todd Zeile's a guy who's highly disciplined at the plate. But the Mets need to win this ball game. Braves lost tonight.
Well, way back on April the 9th. First game these teams played this year in San Juan. Todd Zeile faced Luis Ayala as a pinch hitter in the 11th inning, doubled off him. Mets won the game. It was the game-winning hit.
I think Frank cares about those printouts, the computer.
Well, no, he doesn't care, but the nice thing for Zeile is he knows he can hit this guy now. Ayala's got that. He's a guy that came out of the Mexican League when the Expos found him. Omar Minaya found him there, and he's got a little bit of a funky delivery. Short arms that ball and throws strikes.
You're better off as a pitcher if you can be different with your delivery. It's an adjustment for a hitter. That's a good pitch right there. It's an adjustment for a hitter if you can have a funky delivery, as you look at Omar Minaya. Omar grew up, went to school in the Corona, New York area, right around here at Shea Stadium.
That's by Schneider, so now the lead run advances.
Big break right there. Schneider usually a dependable defensive receiver. And we'll take a look at this pitch again, and well, you know, it's going to be scored, I believe, a wild pitch, but it's something that could have been handled by Schneider.
So Wigginton in a spot where now a single can score. Zeile 3 for 20 as a pinch hitter this year, but one of those hits, the one off Ayala, stays alive. This is where things have become tougher for Todd the last month or so, where his playing time has been cut, trying to stay sharp in a role that he hasn't had an awful lot of experience at.
Yeah, this is a very difficult role. Edgar Martinez out in Seattle had a pinch hit home run yesterday.
Yeah.
And said how difficult pinch hitting is.
Good call. That's exactly right. 2-2. All right, let's take you back to San Juan.
And it was a beautiful day in San Juan at Hiram B. Thorne Stadium, and that ball was hit into the gap in left center field. And Ty Wigginton, who's on base right now for Todd Zeile, scored. So Todd Zeile's going to try to duplicate that situation.
Jimmy Gallagher dipping in that magic bag to bring back the April 9th hit. Can Zeile bring it back? A little dribbler here. Time, though, with Zeile running. Batista makes the play. Johnson drops the ball, and Wigginton scores.
How about that? The 3rd out of the inning, and Wigginton busting it from second base, scores on the error. Well, it wasn't a base hit, but the same result that they got back down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Batista with the throw. Johnson handcuffed. And Wigginton coming around to score on the error. Just like in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Well, about as improbably as Endy Chavez tying the game with a 3-run homer, the Mets take the lead on a 2-out walk, wild pitch, and drop throw by the first baseman.
The ball Batista threw might have sealed a little bit the way Nick Johnson handled it.
But there isn't a hole big enough right now for Nick Johnson to crawl into. What an awful feeling that is. 2-0 to Hidalgo.
Take a look at it again. Watch Batista throw from really the side, or really down under. Now watch the way Nick Johnson was handcuffed. If that ball didn't sail, Nick Johnson has got a problem at first base. So they gave him 2 errors on that.
No, I don't think they should. But that's apparently the scorer wants to see this again. But he does not. He does not have a play here on Wigginton. This is what they're thinking about. But he does not. Even if he picks that ball up, he does not have a play at the plate. 3-0 to Hidalgo. 3-1. Anyway, it's as far as the Expos go, it's an ugly unearned run. The Mets will take it. Now they've got Looper ready.
Frank Robinson said that's a euphemism. It's worse than ugly.
Hidalgo taps one. Well, Batista's going to try it again. Gets him.
Just right over the top and threw that ball.
Yes. But the Mets, without the ball leaving the infield, score the run that gives them the lead and sets it up for Looper to try and save it. Well, coming up sooner rather than later, if the Mets have their way and Looper gets this thing done, will be Sports Desk on MSG with the story of David Wright's first big league day. Amani Toomer visiting in the studio, and NHL news. All of that coming up on MSG Sports Desk, presented by Toyota. The Mets hope it's 3 outs away.
And Braden Looper's in the ballgame. Nick Johnson made the costly error.
And that is just and the bad part for Nick Johnson is he's the 7th batter up in the inning, so he doesn't likely have a chance to atone tonight.
Well, Braden Looper, now you see his numbers on in relief, and the Mets, as we mentioned a inning ago, they have to win this ball game, get that positive feeling after losing 2 straight to the Marlins.
Top of the Expos order, Brad Wilkerson to face Looper. Fouls it away. Wilkerson 2 for 4 tonight, a solo home run in the 5th inning and then a single in the 7th. Scored 2 runs. The slugging Chavez on deck. Vidro behind him. Ralph Kiner sitting here thinking that play at first base reminded him of the '52 Pirates.
That's why they wear helmets in the field.
But they Ralph's fondest memories. Well, of course, the only way it pays off for the Mets is if Looper can close the door here.
Nick Johnson, it's all he's going to think about all night long if they don't come back.
Bouncing ball to Reyes. Ooh. And Reyes throws it. I'm waiting for the radar gun reading.
He threw
97 miles an hour.
He threw a bullet over there, Ty Wigginton.
Say, Wiggy, if you're going to play first base, here it comes, big boy.
Watch this. See, what happens is you have an arm like Reyes has. You're not used to lobbing a ball. So you're used to putting some mustard on the ball. You could have handcuffed Ty Wigginton.
Endy Chavez shocked everybody with a 3-run homer in the 7th inning that tied the game. When you look at him, that's not the result you expect.
Well, they're giving him an opportunity now to play every day. And you know what gets him in the lineup? Potential. That'll get some players in the lineup and a long look in the big leagues.
And of course, he had it last year and played very well, but he lost the job in spring training this year.
That's right. So they said, you know what, if we play him a lot, we'll see what he can do. We think he's going to be a good player. And a lot of times major league teams have to go on that word potential more so than the numbers put up in the minor leagues.
Just laid off, and it's a ball. 2-1. Another thing at work here, to see the pitch off the plate. I'd say Chavez has swung the bat tonight, and he has had 4 out of his 5 at-bats. He's hit the ball on the nose.
He's creeping up to the 300 mark with his average. He has 5 home runs and 16 RBIs. Take a look at this. He got the head of the bat out there. Good swing, level swing, pops that ball in the center field.
Well, now that puts a different spin on this 9th inning. Chavez can steal, and Vidro can hit. And it's funny, the same night where we showed you Zeal's game-winning hit off Ayala, April the 9th in San Juan, the reason the game went extra innings was a night Art Howe brought Looper into the game in the 8th inning. With nobody out, 2-0 game, and Vidro hit a 2-run double off Looper. One strike. Now Vidro's there's the career record, a very good one. This is a guy who's been one of the best players in the National League for the last 5 years, and a very substandard year this year. Good batting average, but not a lot of production. Back to Looper, a bobble, and he's not going to get anybody. Oh, it could have been the game.
Well, a play that ball bounces out of the glove, and then you panic. Happens to catchers when a ball gets by them at home plate right here. Braden Looper couldn't find the ball, but he found the ball. Vidro with good speed is at first base. So now the tying run's down at second base.
Number 5, Jamie Carroll.
And the Expos will run for Vidro. Jamie Carroll is the pinch runner representing the lead run.
You know, it looks like Vidro has put on some weight. And you wonder, is this the reason why I'm surprised, because he had good speed. All of a sudden, a pinch runner's out there.
The big concern is, Vidro is the guy they've signed. Vidro signed a long-term deal to stay with the Expos franchise wherever it ends up. Tony Batista, 2 for 4. A couple of singles.
Oh, Braden Looper really has to forget what just happened and get Batista.
Well, Braden Looper had a outing the other night when luck was not on his side. A lot of ground balls couldn't get played. Well, this one now is a mess more of his own making. Let's see if the Mets can turn this one. And they do to win the game.
6-4-3 double play, and how about Ty Wigginton first?
Exactly right.
Nice play by Wigginton, moving around down there.
Matsui and Reyes, who look better and better all the time as a double play combo. And an unbelievable error by Nick Johnson cost.
Look at this.
I'm going to tell you something. The more you watch this, I know a lot of people have already made up their minds. When you see Reyes, what a value that is with that arm at second base, turning double plays.
Well, you know, the key for Reyes is he gets the ball up by his ears, so that's quickness. But you got Matsui to Reyes, and at the other end, Wigginton picked it. Looking comfortable at first base over there. Tailor-made 6-4-3 double play. Give him a high five.
Well, it's not a game that'll go to Cooperstown, but the Mets will take it. 5-4, they win it over the Expos. Back with more on MSG.
Thank you.
Well, there's the final. 5-4 Mets. Looks like a thrilling one-run victory. The way it happened, a little different than it would indicate. The Mets were up 4-0. The Expos rallied to tie, a most unlikely tying event, and the Mets win it on an error in the 8th. But here's the big hit tonight offensively for the Mets, Fran.
Third inning, Richard O'Doggo going deep into the blue seats. And he is absolutely and has been on fire since joining the Mets, and his stock is on the rise. 3-run home run for the Met right fielder, and he's been carrying this ball club. And here's our Toyota game summary. Wright 0 for 4. Of course, the big spotlight on David Wright tonight. Richard Hidalgo, the 3-run home run. Chavez hit one. Mets 8th inning, and it was a big, big error for Nick Johnson, allowing the winning run to score.
And the Mets take it 5-4. They're back to 500, and they stay 3 out in the National League East. We'll have some final words here on MSG next.
Then he joined the New York Mets, beginning a long and rewarding association with the team for whom he will ever be associated. For over 40 years, Bob Murphy was undoubtedly the voice of the Mets. Murphy was there from the team's beginning in 1962 and called more than 6,000 Mets games over 42 seasons. From the team's humble start, through its World Championship years in 1969 and 1986 and beyond. In 2002, Shea Stadium's radio booth was named in Bob's honor. Born in Oklahoma in 1924, Murphy spent 50 years as a major league broadcaster. But it was his 42 years of calling Mets games which earned him a spot in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Bob Murphy, dead at the age of 79. Braves. Now the Brewers call Milwaukee home. As we welcome you back to Geico Mets on Deck, Bob Murphy would have turned 80 on September 19th. Today he passed away in Florida at the age of 79. His first broadcast as a Met was April 11th, 1962 in St. Louis. His final broadcast was September 25th last year at Shea Stadium against Pittsburgh. In between, in his 42 seasons calling Mets games, he shared the team's highs and lows with Mets fans everywhere.
Now the stretch by McGraw, the 3-2 delivery, the runner goes, and a little pop-up. Milner grabs it, he'll run to first, double play, the Mets win the pennant. The Mets have just won the pennant in the Eastern Division. It's all over, the Mets have won it with a magnificent stretch drive. They won 19 and lost only 8 in September. They've won their first October ball game, and with it, they have won the pennant in the Eastern Division. Ground ball hit down to first base. Milner has it, throws to Buddy Harrelson, 1 to first, double play! And a fight breaks out. A fight breaks out. Pete Rose and Buddy Harrelson, both clubs spill out of the dugouts, and a wild fight is going on. Ground ball to the right side of the infield. Backman has it to Hernandez. Mets win. It's over. Keith Hernandez took the throw, and oh my goodness.
Lenny Dykstra, the man they call Nails on the Mets ball club, is waiting. Now the pitch. And a high fly ball hits the right field. It is fairly deep. It's way back by the wall. He did it. It's a home run. A home run. The Mets win the ball game. Dykstra hits a home run. Lynn Dykstra hit a home run. This ball game is over. And a ground ball, base hit through the middle. Backman around third. Backman coming home. The throw. He scores. The Mets win. The Mets win. Now the stretch. The pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Struck him out. Mets win it. The Mets have won it. They're in the World Series. Oh, they are mobbing Jesse Orozco. The pitch gets away. Gets away. Here comes Mitchell. Here comes Mitchell. High game. And the pitch by Stanley. And a ground ball trickling. It is a fair ball. Hit by Buckner. Rounding third night. The Mets will win the ball game. The Mets win. He struck him out. Struck him out. The Mets have won the World Series. And they're jamming and crowding all over Jesse Orozco. The dream has come true.
In 1994, Murph received the Ford Frick Award, joining the pantheon of baseball immortals enshrined in Cooperstown in baseball's Hall of Fame. He leaves behind an enormous legacy and is fondly remembered by many.
Well, as sad as death is and the inevitable for all of us, I think we should be celebrating a great man's life. He lived life, to the fullest. You hear it all the time about people, about living their lives the way they wanted to live it. People who knew Murph, he lived it exactly the way he wanted to. He loved baseball. It was his whole life. His brother, Jack Murphy, and just everything about him was baseball. And for me, having grown up a Mets fan, his voice, Lindsey Nelson, Ralph Kiner, that was the voice I grew up on. And I think in many ways, affectionately, we go back to the times when we were kids, when we most adored the game, and that certainly was it. And listening to Murph's voice brought me back. As a matter of fact, that was one of my most exciting things when I was traded here, was to finally have long conversations with Bob Murphy, and I'll never forget it.
Growing up in Brooklyn and listening to him on the radio and always remembering the happy recap, and always knew when the Mets won. And but the thing about Murph was, whether you were going good or going bad, he treated you the same. How you doing? How's your family? How's everybody doing? Okay, good luck, get him tomorrow, And he was this positive man to be around, and the Mets were very fortunate to have this man work for him for so many years.
You were just talking earlier how, in this age of instant highlights and sort of analysis, it's a little bit sad, because he is a connection to the past of the days when, you turn on the TV and he was just as much a part of the game as the players and the organization. And I think his distinct voice and his humor and his sort of positiveness is something that I will, definitely remember and miss.
It's basically what the Mets are all about. He's a legend, and just to be able to sit down and talk to him, and just to every day see him and see his smile, and it would pick you up, and that's what I remember most. And he was just a fun guy to be around, and a great guy to have met, and I'm very thankful for that.
In very many ways, baseball was his life. I mean, he devoted half a century to it. He had such a passion for the game and such a passion for the Mets in particular. And what always impressed me about Murph is that right up till he retired, he had an incredible work ethic. He never melded in. He never just kind of showed up and relied on being Bob Murphy. He always worked as hard as everybody else, even, when his physical frailties might have convinced him to do otherwise, and I had great respect for him for that.
He was an icon. He was a guy that was invaluable to a person like me who did not come up the usual way broadcasting minor league baseball. I mean, I didn't have that training that a lot of broadcasters that he worked with had. And just to watch him go about his daily routine, to watch the way he worked, to watch the way he called a game, to watch the way he brought out the great moments in the game and the dramatic moments in the game, it was invaluable, having something like that on a daily basis. It was terrific to watch.
He was so singularly identified with this franchise, and I just hope that people get a feel in the days and weeks ahead, with all the tributes that pour in, about what a terrific reporter he was, and a broadcaster of the game, not just a broadcaster for the Mets, because even though the Mets were his life, some of his best calls were on plays that were not particularly favorable to the Mets, because he was able to ratchet up the commensurate enthusiasm and inflection that moments like that deserve, that I think belie the image that he was just a great Mets announcer. He's a great baseball announcer.
He was always the first guy to the park, getting his notes, calling about, getting a rough copy of the press guide. He always wanted to be informed, right to the end. And just like a week ago, he even hoped that he would be well enough at the end to maybe broadcast a game in September. But it just happened so quickly that, he's one of the nicest people you ever want to meet. I don't think anybody would ever say a bad word about Bob Murphy.
I remember playing ball in the schoolyard with guys who all of a sudden would turn into Bob Murphy when the ball was in play. We were all kind of like that. But that's the thing about Murph, I think, that stands out, is that as much a part of the fabric as the Mets organization as he was, he left a little piece of it with everybody that heard his games because we all went around talking like him for a while.
You don't find many broadcasters who broadcast the team's games from its inception right until the day he retires. I mean, he belongs in the Hall of Fame, he is in the Hall of Fame, and he'll always be a Hall of Famer with us.
The first game I ever did with Murph was 1988. I was filling in just for one night, and I was working in the minor leagues. I'd grown up listening to Murph since I was 6 years old, and I was petrified, absolutely petrified. And I'll never forget, very early in that broadcast, there was a point at which I froze. I froze. No words were coming out of my mouth. I didn't know what to do next, and I was ready to just crawl under the table and die. And Murph reached out his hand, I'll never forget this, and just kind of patted my hand, and as if to say, don't worry, it's all right. And he took it from there smoothly, and from then on I was okay. And I never forgot that act of kindness. That's who he was.
Whether on radio or on TV, when you heard Murph's voice, that was Mets baseball. Today, that voice was stilled.